Hello, Guardians. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is... Let's see. What do I call you this week, Josh?
I have no idea.
You are... I don't know. You're our brand new artifact, Josh Finney.
Oof.
That's not what I was looking for, but...
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's been a week. It's been a week for everyone. I've been recovering from a procedure this week, so I've been in a lot of pain. Today's like the first day I'm not in like crippling pain. So yeah, I'm here. Man, they dropped so much shit on us this week. Like we gotta just need to launch like straight into it because we had a live stream. We had next generation armor. We had an article drop about that, and then an 8,000 word drop.
Yeah, it's a beefy.
There's a lot. It dropped while I was playing with I was playing a little bit with Joasis earlier when it dropped, and I was like, oh Jesus Christ. Like we're trying to read it while we're sitting in the helm, and just like, oh my god, we each like tackled a different part of it, trying to read it to each other. So yeah, Revenant is like 5 days away. When you're listening to this, it's probably 4 days away. So super stoked. We got that awesome live stream earlier this week. We want to just start there.
Yeah, let's just...
Oh my god. Yeah. So I don't know if anybody could tell from the key art that we got, but it's Scorn themed.
What?
Yeah. Oh, what? Basically the TLDR of it, the Scorn and Fickrel have gotten one of the echoes, which of course, was set up in the conclusion of the final shape. We knew that was going to happen. It's going to cause the Scorn to evolve similar to how the Vex evolved, which still pretty bummed that like didn't really take effect anywhere else other than in the activities, and like, oh, we've got some fancier looking goblins on Nessus patrols. So I hope this is a more substantial evolution. And the story is going to see us teaming up with Crow, Mithrax, and Ido. To take Fickrel down, but it should be noted that all Elixni have a stake in seeing Fickrel go down. We of course know, because of the quest related to going into the dungeon for the first time, that Spider will be involved, and the artifact points towards potentially Aramis coming back and being involved, which again, end of the final shape kind of showed us that she was likely going to be back in some capacity anyways. Very interested to see how this goes. Basically, all the Elixni are interested in seeing Fickrel go down. Crow, of course, thinks that a lot of this is his responsibility for what he did as Uldren. Another interesting story note is that the Shadow Legion, or what remains of them, are kind of leaderless, and they've decided to team up with Fickrel. Like, they tried doing it with Maya Sundaresh, and that didn't really work for them. Now they're trying to team up with Fickrel, but the alliance is very tenuous. According to the story team. Interested to see if we like actually get anything that builds on that. I feel like we're kind of all cabaled out. I think we've kind of reached the end of the story of what we can do with like anyone who's not loyal to Keitel at this point. Maybe in like a year or two we can find an appropriate story beat, but I got kind of cabaled out. Like we took care of the callous of it all. In Lightfall, and we had Season of the Haunted, which was pretty heavy on Cabal. We had Defiance, where you were still fighting the Shadow Legion when they were helping the Witness kidnap people on Earth. I kind of feel like we've run that gauntlet a million times, and now apparently there's some kind of lawsuit against Bungie regarding the Red Legion for all the way back in 2017. God knows why 7 years it took to file this lawsuit, but and then they alleged that like the Exos were stolen from this same story, and just like a lot of things don't make sense to me here. But so that's happening. Ido is of course going to bring her knowledge to teach us how to craft potions and tonics. I'm super excited for this mechanic. I really loved the tarot card deck that we got last year, in which the deck of many things. If you've ever played D&D, very similar to that. This evokes a similar feeling. So super stoked for that. I love the idea of it being a vampire slaying fantasy, and the armor in the key art really reflects that. It's very Bloodborne-esque.
Yeah.
I hesitate to use that comparison because I mean that look has been done a million times before. That's very like Victorian look. I would say it's like probably more like Dracula style, like actual vampire hunter armor.
Oh yeah.
Um, but still very, very, very neat. Excited for that. The theme is basically lots of it's the feeling is supposed to evoke a very metal season. So similar to Haunted in a lot of ways. If you remember, like the typeface we got then was very like if you've ever been to a metal show, it was very metal in terms of its typography. Um, very, very, very into this. Lots of slaying is supposed to take place, and that's reflected in the game mode that we're getting, which we'll get to in just a second. Brand new space, and I'm curious to see if this is in the last city or if this is going to be in the Helm. Um, but the apothecary is coming, and that's where you're going to craft your tonics, and presumably have your story interactions and things like that. You're going to have two different kinds of tonics. You're going to have encounter tonics, which kind of do what they say, like you're going to deal different kinds of damage or increase damage with certain weapons, things like that. And then you've got reward tonics, which will allow you to focus for weapons because as we're going to get into in the TWAB, weapons are no longer craftable in seasons.
Yikes.
And that has been a topic of discussion in a few groups I've been a part of. I've had a few different chats, a few different viewpoints that I want to discuss on that one. um other little story notes. The inverted spire strike is back, and I don't know if I'd say better than ever, but it's got something called death lasers in it, and we know that wyverns are in it as well.
Death
um
lasers.
Death lasers, and apparently there are a lot more enemies. The density has been upped, so very excited for that. Inverted Spire, of course, was the very first strike we ever got to play in Destiny 2. If you remember all the way back to the Destiny 2 beta, this was the very first strike we got to play as part of it. So curious to see how this one plays out. Act 2, though, and this is the last real story note that we got. I'm very excited to see your thoughts on this. Act 2 will have a fan favorite activity returning, which DMG has already shut down. It is not Sparrow Racing League. Thank the nine.
Dang. I
Although
was really looking forward to it.
on the subject of the nine and racing, we are getting a Zerf board
I saw
at
that.
Zer.
I thought that was
Very,
fake.
very happy.
I thought that was fake at first. I was like, ah, that's a good one. But then I was like, oh, it's real.
Josh Kalinsky was talking about this on Twitter, one of the senior designers, and he said that was just the code name that they had during development. That like somebody was like, "Hey, there's a placeholder name. Why don't we just call it the Zerf board?" And everybody was like, "That's so genius. We should just keep it as the final name."
It's nice. It's a good one.
Yeah, you were never going to top that. Let's be honest. I think
Yeah.
that's phenomenal. But this fan favorite activity, I've got three ideas as to what this could be, and I think we all know what it's going to be. The most obvious choice here is Prison of Elders. It's a Reef season. It's Scorn. It's Elixni. Prison of Elders makes Crow is involved. There's been whispers that that Varrix's voice actor has recorded new lines for this season.
All
So
right, I'm in. Varrix is here. I'm in.
I mean, if
Count me in.
they're saying the Fickrell's a threat to all Elixni, then Varrix would need to be a part of it, in my opinion. So I'm interested to see what happens there. I would hope that Varrix is a part of this. I could see Spider being the new narrator for Prison of Elders, although I don't think he will be. Let Varrix maybe take his place back as the warden. I don't know. I know the Reef is like kind of pissed at him. For good reasons. He's the reason everything happened. My second choice, which not as out there, but it's a little more out there, just because like I don't know if there's really room to do it in this season, would be a revamped menagerie. With the inclusion of the Shadow Legion and the fact that we fought both Cabal and Scorn on the Leviathan during Haunted, I wouldn't put this outside the realm of possibility, although I do think like the chances are definitely less than Prison of Elders. Especially because like Prison of Elders, you could keep that as a permanent mode, I think. Um, I think there's something to think about. My really out there, out of left field pick, which I don't know how you would even do this, because if you're going to do this, you might as well bring back Wrath of the Machine. Do you remember Rise of Iron and the Archon's Forge?
Yep.
I
Do
would
I?
I would propose Archon's Forge, although I feel like that would have to be definitely scaled and built differently in today's day and age.
Yeah.
With how we've gotten way more powerful since then, and have way different abilities.
Yeah, I would
It was
assume
a
that would
very
have to be
small
different.
space.
Yeah, that would have to be totally different, but
Mhm.
um I still feel like Prison of Elders is the safe bet.
But Prison of Elders is absolutely the safe bet here. I think that or Menagerie are really the only two ones. I only say Menagerie because the assets are already built for it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that I would say that. You've had a lot of time. People have asked for that to come back ever since it was taken out. Those are the only two activities I can, if I think back through everything that would be themed to this season, that people would actually want back.
Mhm.
Because remember, the Leviathan is just kind of like chilling over the moon right now, funny enough.
Yeah.
Um, don't know how to feel about that still, but it's there.
It's it's there.
It is in fact there. Um, well, I guess let's talk a little bit about this activity that we're gonna get. You guys remember how much we loved Onslaught during Into the Light. Well, I hope you're ready for more Onslaught, because we're doing Onslaught again with 3 new maps. Um, there's 3 maps. We're getting Widow's Court, we're getting the Eventide Ruins on Europa, and I cannot remember off the top of my head what the third one is. I'm sure somebody will correct me. It has been in some of the preview videos that Datto and Leopard and a few others did of the new exotics, and I just do not remember it for the life of me. I have slept since I watched this video. Um, but we
One of
are
us
getting,
has.
we're getting a few new maps, new enemy types in there, which is a really big deal to me. We're for sure going to be able to fight Scorn. There are different difficulties to it. Again, the reward structure is going to feel a lot like um Into the Light. The tripwires have been updated and are actually useful. They're stasis tripwires now, that will freeze as you upgrade them, they will freeze enemies and spawn stasis crystals for you and your team. Really, really love that. It's called Onslaught Salvation. Um, starting at level 30, you'll get a chance for a full masterwork double perk seasonal weapon. And expert mode, of course, will have extra chests. Um, on expert difficulty, you'll get the first taste of Banes in
Ooh.
seasonal activities, which we talked about last week. Excited to see those in action. They look a little wild. Onslaught, I mean, it's more of the same. Let's be totally honest. I think there's worse things that you could be doing as the activity. But I was talking about this with Nerd, and I feel like I would be more excited for this if we hadn't just done Onslaught right before Into the Light. I'd be a
Yeah.
little more stoked. I understand that this is probably a move to get more maps into that rotation starting next summer with Apollo, because we
Yeah.
always, when we always sunset the activities, I think that's like to make that playlist feel worth playing again and maybe shake up its loot pool. I get that. I'm not really in love with it being the first thing that drops, but I do think that whatever the first activity of an episode or a season now going forward again, needs to be a super enemy dense activity. It needs to feel rewarding. It needs to feel like it's worth grinding. Um, we said we were going to talk about the crafted weapons when we get to the Schwab. They give us a little bit more context. It was mentioned really offhand on the stream, and I was like, kind of taken out of it when they said that,
Mhm.
which was really frustrating. Um, we got a peek at some of the new gear, of course. Again, gear, we get a full gear breakdown in the Schwab. The only thing I will for sure talk about is the exotic breech loaded grenade launcher. It is a stasis GL that has the ability, it has a bar, and when you get to 50%, you can do a special reload to shoot out special ammo for your team, and if you get to 100%, you can do the special reload and shoot out heavy bricks for your team. That is awesome.
Yeah,
I
it's pretty.
really, really, really love that.
Yeah.
we Joe and Johnny and I were already talking. The three of us are planning on tackling the contest dungeon next week, and already making builds based around this. So very, very, very happy for that. Very excited to see how that's going to be. Um, I will say on the subject of the exotics, because I wanted to hit on the exotics real fast. I screenshotted them for us. I think first of all, if you want a really good breakdown, of course, go listen to Dado. I think Dado breaks down the Warlock and Titan ones really really well. The problem with the Hunter exotic was he said that his footage was did not get captured correctly, so he had to borrow someone's footage. And I love Leopard, but Lep didn't really like you wasn't really using the exotic like the way that I think most of us felt it was going to be used.
Yeah.
So there is a lot to kind of be desired. It is the one that's going to require the most fine tuning in terms of your build, I think, to use effectively. The others are kind of like plug and play.
Yeah.
But that Hunter one focuses on the Withering Blades, which has me really excited. But for the Warlocks, we got the Rhyme Coat Raiment, and it's all Bleak Watchers all the time. You throw down your Bleak Watcher turret essentially. It's got extended range, and you are surrounded by stasis crystals and a storm. While standing in the storm, you're granted icicles over time. Icicles activate when you fire your weapon, applying slow to targets they hit. It is basically a super debuff, which I am a really big fan of. We saw the footage that Dado gave us was him doing Onslaught Salvation on the Eventide Ruins, and just he was like, you can just tank with this thing. You can just hold down a point. Like this is going to be a great pick for maybe encounters and raids that are like that. I expect to see this used pretty heavily in the upcoming Iron Banner at the beginning of November. Um, I like the idea of this for things like zone control, and just like if you need to slow down champs, slow down enemies, things like that. I think this is going to be a great pick for builds that are not focusing solely on DPS. Now, to maximize this, you do have to choose between: do you want your Bleak Watcher and an Arc Soul, or do you just want, if you want a super Bleak Watcher, you put this on and lose your Arc Soul. So that is your trade off.
Hmm.
I don't think that's a bad trade off. I think this is of the three exotics, this has me the most excited. I think this one's awesome.
Hmm.
The Titan Blast Wave Striders leg armor. These look a little funky. They look more like hunter legs, but I really like them. Just like looking at, I think the look of all three of these exotics is on point, by the way. But these, what you gain resistance to your explosions. Defeat targets to charge your armor. Once charged, slide or deal explosive self damage to rocket jump backwards and blast deadly shrapnel projectiles that spawn stasis crystals on impact. Charged rocket jumps grant frost armor. Very excited in a season that is focused solely on like stasis and grenade launchers. Like those are two really big things in this artifact. I think this is going to be really fun to use. The footage looked kind of wild, and like it just clear red bars like it's nothing. Um, Data was saying in his breakdown that basically, unless you're like in a raid or like GM content, like expect the red bars to just like fall over when you use this. So I think this is cool. Kind of wondering how effective it's going to be, but for right now, it looks really fun. And then that brings us to the Mask of Fealty for the hunters. Again, this is one that I really can't wait to see in action. I want to see it. I think that it has maybe the most potential out of the three, but it's really going to depend on the builds that we can make with it. Withering Blade hits and bounces to create a small stasis crystal and refund a portion of melee energy. Using Withering Blade to shatter crystals or frozen targets releases a spread of Withering Blades. This is really cool as someone who really, really, really loves using Withering Blade, especially in like higher level content. I like using it a lot. I'm excited for this. I don't know. Again, I don't know how effective this is going to be in higher level content. I'm a little curious, but this, I mean, if you build a good enough melee build, like you could be doing it. The thing is, a lot of those melee builds, and this is something Data was bringing up and talking about, a lot of melee builds for Hunter, especially on Prismatic, are built around combination blow. You can't have combo blow on with this. Like, so, and you're not regenning health, which is a big thing about hunter melee builds. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. I really want to see it like properly in action. I apologize that I have not seen any videos other than Dado's. I plan on playing with this as soon as I can get my hands on it. Hopefully next week. Fingers crossed. Got to grind out for some of those exotic Ingrams to get Rahul leveled up again. But excited for that. Last thing out of this stream, we got a lot of Frontiers info. I was kind of surprised that we got so much info so quickly. And it's like, why couldn't we have just gotten all this at once? Like, why couldn't we just have done a 10th anniversary stream if you're going to drop like 5 articles in the span of 3 weeks?
Right.
And I understand. Well, we all know why they didn't do a stream. Let's be totally honest. But it's a shame because I really would have liked to have heard a lot of this explained. And I'm glad they did this. They did not do an article that had all this info in it, which was also really weird to me. Because I think there's a lot of good stuff here that I kind of wish they would have discussed. We did get an article on one of the really big parts of this, which is next gen armor, which we're going to go into right after this. But basically, regarding Frontiers, expansions are aiming to be Rise of Iron size. So 2 Rise of Irons every 12 months. I think that's better than we were hoping for. I know the fear for a lot of people was, oh my god, it's going to be Curse of Osiris or Warmind sized. Rest assured, if it's Rise of Iron sized, I think that's a little bit better. I would keep in mind that Rise of Iron did have its own standalone campaign. It was a shorter campaign, but it had a campaign. It dealt with a new destination, well, a revamped Cosmodrome, really. It did strike revamps. It did, the plague lands. The what were those fallen called? I keep wanting to call them splicers, and they weren't splicers.
No,
that's a season.
Well, the Rise of Iron ones?
Yeah.
They were splicers, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, splicers. So to hear that's going to be Rise of Iron sized isn't the worst thing I've ever heard. I'm still waiting on the price point dagger, which I'm pretty sure is going to be just killer. Each expansion will have its own unique campaign and endgame experience. Think something similar to exploring the Dreaming City post Forsaken. That's inspiring to me. That makes me really hopeful, like, because they said they want to get more playtime and more longevity out of these expansions. I like the idea of that. The concept art they showed us, though, these 2 pieces were so cool. Specifically the first one they showed us with like the priest looking robed figures. And it's interesting because there were 2 things that I noticed about this that kind of call back the factions we already know about. It looks like some kind of like Vex thing coming out of the ceiling first off. And then the architecture feels very pyramid-esque. I'm interested to see how accurate this destination is going to be to this concept art. And like, is this even going to be used for that first destination is the question, I think. Very, very, very intrigued in the story for where we're going to go with this. They did say that that Apollo's campaign is directly influenced by Metroidvanias. We already knew it was going to be non-linear, but they're saying you are in the driver's seat for how you want to explore the destination, that doing certain things will unlock new pathways and this and that to ultimately get you to the end. I've been playing through a lot of Prince of Persia lately, and this really excites me. I'm a big fan. If you guys have ever heard me on other shows, I'm a really big fan of Metroid also. Like, I love Metroid Fusion. It's one of the greatest games of all time. I love Castlevania, so the namesakes. I was a big fan of Dead Cells, Hades, things like that. Like, this is really encouraging for me to hear. And yes, before anybody says anything, I know that Hades is not a Metroidvania, but it is fairly non-linear at times. So very excited for all of that, though. But I think the thing that was the coolest that they said was Revenant and Heresy are going to get rid of the typical gameplay loop on the way to Apollo. They want you to be out exploring the world to find the story beats and not have to keep going back to a hub every other mission. I cannot begin to tell you how excited that makes me, because I'm so tired of the routine of go do the go do this activity, go back to the helm to talk to failsafe, go do an activity, come back to talk to Osiris and Saint, go back out, do the conclusion for the week, come back and listen to your radio message and wait for next week. Like, I hate that loop so much.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to tell me that I can encounter these characters out in the world and that's how the world is going to evolve, awesome. That's how Destiny should be.
Yeah.
And it's pretty bad that it's taken us 10 years to get to this point, but like, the game has to evolve somehow. So if you're going to do that in the seasonal content leading up to Apollo, cool. Like, you have my attention. That's the quickest way to get my attention, is to tell me cool shit about the future. That Metroidvania gameplay, I'm in. The other thing that really excites me is when they were talking about like what was inspiration for this, and they said music of the 60s. Like, the Doors were specifically called out as an inspiration, which all I can think of is Riders on the Storm, which when I think of that, I think of Need for Speed Underground 2 and the Snoop Dogg remix. Um, and the, Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse 5 as inspirations. And I'm like, oh, well, that's fascinating to hear about a first person shooter, but okay. Um, and then they talk about next gen armor that actually, the goal is to make armor matter again. And it's been so long since the pursuit of armor actually mattered for the majority of us.
Mm-hmm.
I forget who said it. I saw somebody on Twitter say this, but they're like, thank God, honestly, because like, a lot of us are still wearing armor from like Risen and Haunted. Some of us, me, are wearing armor from even before then, because we got such great stat rolls
Mm-hmm.
on older armor that once they got rid of the elements on armor, we had no reason to ever grind again.
Yeah. I don't even remember what armor I'm wearing because it's been transmogged so many times.
Yeah, I only remember because the symbols are still on there.
Yeah.
I think I mostly have armor from Haunted or before. I think Risen was the last time I was really chasing armor. I do think I had to chase one piece during Pantheon because I needed to build into a specific stat, and that was it. So I just dumped like all my Defiance tokens for it. But yeah, I don't really chase armor anymore. There hasn't been a need to. But very, very excited for that. And I guess we're going to kind of wrap up here on the live stream with they are doing a weapon rework that is in the very early stages, but the goal is for every expansion, season, raid, dungeon, etc., to have new weapons. Weapon reprisals are still going to come out with new roles, with stats, etc., and they want to do more things like the Brave Arsenal, is what I have here on my notes. Um, they're kind of walking back weapon crafting in a way, like that it's going to be mainly be a catch up mechanic now, which I don't love. Um, but I understand. I get the decision, because with crafting, and part of the thing that they explain in the TWAB is that with crafting, it got to a point where, oh, if it's not a deep sight drop, I don't care about it. I'm just auto deleting until I get my deep sight drops.
Mm.
And I understand that, but it's like, man, some of the seasons that I've had to really grind out, and I feel like I play more than the average player. I had to really, really kill myself to get all my red borders in some seasons, and then there's seasons like Haunted where I just never finished getting all my red borders. I'm still missing like 3 or 4 weapons from that season, and I played a ton that season. I just had absolutely abysmal luck on my RNG, but like, it is like, it is what it is. It's the luck of the draw. And then you have things like Echoes where like, hey, I kind of grinded my way to get there, but they're like, yeah, we want to make vendor unlocks to let you focus on specific weapons, and like tonics are coming into play and this and that. And like, those are all cool ideas, but if you're going to do that, you got to give us more vault space. Like, it's not even a joke anymore. Like, you actually have to do that, because like 700 is fine, but if you're gonna basically make crafting take a back seat now, or at least make it to where like, oh, you can't craft these weapons until like that calendar year is over, which I feel is the way we're going, since they say they want it to be a catch-up mechanic, then you're gonna have to do something, because we're gonna run out of space really fast if you're doing this like across the board, with the exception of like the end game. So I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know if I love that decision. I do think it's very clearly intended to make you play more. And for me, like, I understand a lot of people like the pursuit of that, like, gives them a reason to play and a reason to grind. I've really come to like crafting in the last 2, 3 years, and that bums me out in a way. Like, okay, like I could step away for a few weeks at a time and then come back and know that I could still get my shit. Now it's like, oh, I got to come back and I'm going to have to dive right into just as heavy of a grind as I would have been, and if I never stepped away, to make sure I always have like the best loot, the best gear for when I want to do the new raid or the new dungeon or the new exotic mission or whatever. Um, I don't think it's great. It is what it is. Ultimately, at the end of the day, like the hardcore base that is still playing this game is lapping this up. They love this. Cool. So I'm so happy for you guys. For me personally, not as much of a fan. If it was just like a one season thing, then fine. But with you moving to only doing 2 seasons a year, starting with Apollo, 2 seasons and 2 expansions, I don't know if I love it.
Mm,
I don't
yeah.
know. Don't know if I love that decision. But I at the same time, like, I get it. It is designed to keep you playing those activities and keep those playlists healthier for longer. So I get it. If you could get the weapons to drop from anywhere like we used to be able to, then I think that I'd be a little bit more on board for this. But I'm cringing at the thought of having to play Onslaught like 50 times to try and get my weapons. And that's like 50 full runs, not 50 10 level runs. So I don't know. And the weapon arsenal, for what it's worth, sounds awesome this season. So I don't know. Curious to see what a weapon rework looks like. The fact that they're talking about still reprising weapons does give me hope. I like that. Like this season, we're getting splicer weapons. Like they're doing it when it makes sense to do it, to bring the weapons back in some way, shape, or form. I like that, and they're not bringing back the whole arsenal at once, so like they've still got some wiggle room to bring others back down the line. Um, I like it. I think that that is a healthy way to bring things back. And to be clear, I don't think that reprised weapons ever should be craftable. Um, like eventually, I'm sure we're going to get to a point where like, oh, craftable weapons are being reprised. As we get to those seasons, we're actually kind of like bumping up against that now if we're bringing splicer weapons back. Um, but there's bigger things I think to worry about. And like if this helps the overall health of the game, then by all means go for it. Like don't let me like pissing anybody's Cheerios over it, right?
Right.
I just want the game to be healthy.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of people who are really excited coming out of this live stream. We're really pumped, and I was like the guy who was like, I'm gonna be really cautious until I actually see this stuff play out. Like I'm super excited for the Frontier stuff. I want to see that play out first.
Yeah.
Like you're promising me a Metroidvania style experience. I want to see how that actually looks though, with the resources you still have there, because I'm not
Yeah.
going to hold my breath when you got rid of most of the storytellers that I think would have told an awesome story. Or you got rid of a lot of your designers and this and that. Like your studio is 40% lighter, man. Like and it's clear that a lot of your focus is on Marathon right now. So I really want Destiny to be in a good and healthy place. And hey, 2 smaller experiences a year probably will get you there. There's nothing that says in the future they don't go back to one big expansion. Maybe once they get those numbers bumped back up, like who knows. But I would also say that hey, doing smaller experiences like that lets them get more stories out. They can have 2 main stories and 2 smaller seasonal stories a year, not counting what they do in raids and dungeons. That's a cool idea. They've said they want the next saga to be shorter. The Journey for Frontiers, I'd estimate if you want a smaller saga, probably 3.5 years maybe. Like that's kind of a cool take, I think. I don't know. Any other thoughts on this live stream before we start diving into armor?
I'm just glad that seems like it feels a little bit more normal to have live streams than 75 blogs come out, but
Oh my god. Yeah.
It was nice to see people on camera talking about the game again, to be honest.
Yeah.
No real thoughts about the content of it though that we haven't already talked about. But it was just nice to see them, you know, in that room, kind of on the couch and around the table and whatever. So
Yeah, I big fan. Big fan. All right. Moving on. Sorry, my apartment complex has emailed me something, so I'm reading it really fast.
mm,
Okay. Moving into armor. Oh boy.
mm,
All right. So keep in mind, everything we talk about for armor is this is a frontiers change. This is not something happening now, which is kind of what bugs me that we're talking about this so far out. Like, talk about the story, talk about the setting, talk about like your big ambitions, but like it was this kind of the same gripe I had about the raid and dungeon stuff when they talked about it. Like, you're talking about doing a Pantheon experience that is like at least a year and a half away. That's spring 2026. Like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit, Chief. You know? So armor, the TLDR, what they're aiming for, armor to be a more active, interesting part of build crafting, stats to be reworked to be more impactful, less confusing, and less constraining, and set bonuses to be introduced. So Shadowkeep is the last time we really got armor updates. Armor 2.0. Once you have the right high stat rolls, there's very little else to look forward to, and the balance of stat values has a lock-in effect that makes it hard to want to swap anything out anyways. Reworked stat mechanics. The first major change is stats themselves. They are no longer going to be tiered every 10 points. Every point in a stat will provide a benefit. This change is intended to reduce the lock-in effect that happens when a fine-tuned combination of stat values makes it feel impossible to switch out any single armor piece. Stats will now be capped at 200, with the range from 101 to 200 providing an additional powerful effect building on the base effect. This change is intended to support deeper investment in a small number of stats and spikier stat distributions on armor with fewer secondary dump stats. Um, I think we all know what we're talking about when we say dump stats, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, In addition to the above changes, the distribution of stats on armor will also be changing. Legendary armor will have a stat archetype, which determines the primary and secondary stat types, with the third stat being a free roll. The values of these should be overall be spikier, leading to fewer points in dump stats. The class slot will have full stat distributions on par with other slots. So interesting that we're going back to that. When they say fewer dump stats, for me that's like, okay, you're focusing on what you want. So like you're just focusing on strength or discipline or intellect or something like that, to get your abilities back.
Mm-hmm.
The result will be a smaller number of unique stats on any piece of armor with larger contributions to these stats, and every stat point provides a benefit. It should ultimately make every piece of armor feel more interesting and easier to evaluate.
Mm.
So okay, cool. I like the idea of that. So for example, one of the archetypes we have here on Chesty is Brawler, which its primary stat is strength, the secondary is discipline, and the tertiary is intellect. So I kind of like that. I like the idea of that. The stat distribution is 30, 20, and 10 respectfully for each one on this. That's a cool idea. Really big fan of that.
Yep.
Um, and the stat bonuses are going to kick in at 2 and 4 pieces, but more on that in just a second. New stats. Some stats will be changing with 3 goals in mind: to improve specific weak stats, reduce or eliminate mandatory must-have stats, and overall improve understandability of stats and their effects. Changes are still under development, but here are a few examples from work in progress designs, which will eventually include most or all of the current stats found on armor. Discipline from 1 to 100 provides increasing grenade cooldown reduction. From 101 to 200 provides an increasing chance to gain a bonus grenade charge whenever your grenade becomes available.
Ooh.
Stat will be renamed to Grenade to improve readability. Strength 1 to 100 provides increasing melee cooldown reduction. From 101 to 200 provides an increasing chance to gain a bonus melee charge whenever your powered melee becomes available. Stat will be renamed to Melee. And then special ammo from 1 to 100 increases rate at which special ammo bricks drop from final blows. Up to 200 will provide an increasing chance that a double-sized brick will drop.
Ooh.
This is fantastic.
Double sized brick.
This is fantastic. Fan-fucking-tastic. This is much easier to understand. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've had to try to get new people into this game, and they're trying to read all the text tips, and I'm just like, even I forget sometimes what certain stats do. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. Like, renaming these as grenade and melee is outstanding.
Yeah.
I like that. I am curious to see how the other stats evolve, but I think this is a very good place to start. And this is one of the only reasons why I say I wish they would have held this, is until you had a plan for each stat to have it all out there at once.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just think that that is so important. I like this a lot, though. I'm a big fan. I think that's cool. I think what I'm more excited about is set bonuses, though. Think of them like an origin trait for armor, essentially. Set bonuses are perks granted when you equip 2 and 4 pieces of armor from the same set. This allows you to either commit to 2 bonuses from the same set or find combos that fit your unique needs. We're keeping both approaches in mind as they take shape and are excited to see what each Guardian chooses to do. There is no bonus at 5 pieces because most builds are expected to include a piece of exotic armor. As you'll see, perks will consist of either existing mods or will be newly designed. We've included a few examples below that represent the general direction we're wanting to go. So the first one is Tex Mechanica. At 2 pieces, while shooting from the hip, you have increased movement speed and weapon handling. Effect increases when you score hits. And at 4 pieces, Tex Mechanical weapons have increased range and accuracy when hip fired. So if you're a big fan of things like Last Word or Dead Man's Tale, this is going to be the set for you, which is really cool to think about. Nonstop aggression. At 2 pieces, final blows with freshly reloaded weapons heal you. And then at 4 pieces, damaging a target with a shotgun or fusion rifle increases the damage it takes from those weapons for a short time. Again, could be really, really cool. Remember, this is going to work on things like Vex Mythoclast. So that's kind of interesting to see. It'll also work on things like Legend of Acreus. This could be a little spicy. Demolitions Expert. Direct hits with explosive weapons temporarily increases reload speed, and at 4 pieces on that, repeated direct hits with explosive weapons temporarily increase grenade ability damage. And our final one, what would an armor set be without Vanguard perks? Vanguard Operative. Activating your grenade gives you and nearby allies damage resistance against combatants, and then at 4 pieces, defeating champs with a finisher generates special ammo for you and your fire team. That's going to be a very popular one, I have a feeling. In terms of like the four piece ones, I think all of them serve different purposes. Like the Tex Mechanical ones, I expect to see a lot in the Crucible. But I really love the idea of nonstop aggro and Vanguard Operative for higher level PvE activities. I think that's really, really good and really important, especially for builds that like revolve around things like Ergosum, or if we get another season with particle deconstruction, like that could be super valuable. Which I'm happy that this is happening. This needed to happen for a while. But of course, there's going to be some questions with this. And one of the burning ones is what happens to our old armor? Old legendary armor will be changed as little as possible, but because the change to stat mechanics and types are global changes, old armor pieces will have their stat types, but not their values, changed around. When possible, these changes will be to the most similar stat, but with some stats being fundamentally reworked, this won't always be possible. Exotic armor. Let's talk exotic armor. Updating exotic armor pursuit is on our roadmap, but won't be part of the initial update focusing on legendary armor. To make sure exotics and their build-defining perks remain a compelling option, we're working on a design that will allow players to update their exotic armor to bring their stat bonuses in line with the changes to legendary armor. The exotic class items introduced in the final shape are a special case. Even though legendary class items will be gaining full random stats with this update, we don't wish to add additional randomness to the exotic class item chase. Instead, we'll be providing a method for players to update their existing exotic class items with additional stats of their choosing to bring them in line with the stat contribution of new legendary class items. More details on the longer term plans for exotic armor coming as we nail them down. And then vault space. Vault space. My vault is full. What am I supposed to do with all this new armor? Vault space is a real problem for many players, even with recent increases in space. Outside of adding more spaces, an option, real solutions that enable long-term storage of more desirable roles are really hard problems. Those are problems we're penciling into our roadmap at or around next year's second expansion, Behemoth. We'll share more details when we have a clearer direction for how we think we can solve this one. I think that's my biggest problem, is that we have all these cool ideas. Like, we have this. You want to make weapon rolls worth chasing again. You want to do more things like shiny brave weapons. Where are we supposed to store this? So many people have weapons that they can't delete anymore. Like, you are running out of space in your vault. Like, a lot of if people play more than one class, like, you're storing exotics for all those classes, you're storing armor for all those classes. Like, what the fuck are you supposed to do?
Right.
I have 200 spaces left and I'm freaking out, right? Like, I habitually get rid of like all of my exotics that are in my vault, with the exception of random roll exotics.
Yeah.
Um, or crafted ones. And it's just like, what are we supposed to do with this? I think this is ridiculous. I was going through and cleaning out a lot of my Into the Light rolls that I never deleted. I deleted like 40 weapons the other day, and I'm like still over 500
Yeah.
in my vault. So I don't know. The fact that this update to vault space is probably a year and a half or more away, I would actually put money on this being a summer 2026 thing, the way they're talking.
Mm.
Um, Jesus Christ. I don't know what you're supposed to do. That is 3 or 4 major seasons. That's 2 major expansions between now and then. That's multiple dungeons. That's 3 dungeons. That's a new raid. I that's nightfalls. That's trials. That's activities where you can't craft things that are a ways out. And like, what are you supposed to do at a certain point? I'm interested to see how they solve this, because they acknowledge, oh yeah, we could just add more space. Like, I understand that they want a solution that's not adding more vault space, but I don't even know what that begins to look like. But that feels like something that should have probably been thought about for the last couple of years, and not something, oh, we should figure this out now that we're announcing this to the public.
Yeah.
I understand how difficult that likely is. I get it. But that seems like, I think that's one thing that crafting really helped alleviate, was vault space in a lot of ways. Like, if we had net crafting for the last couple of years, my vault would be maxed out. It just would be. There's no way around that. It would be totally maxed. And that's okay, but I can't tell you how many times in the past I've gone to delete weapons. They're like, oh yeah, I don't use these, and all of a sudden it's meta and I have like no way to grind for it anymore. So I think that's one thing that crafting has really helped. Like, I'd rather kill myself to get the pattern so that I always have it ready to pull and level up, especially with the quick level up mechanic now on the weapons. I'd rather have that pattern easily available to me and be able to go get my god roll that I need for an endgame activity, or that I need for, or to be able to swap perks around for something like Pantheon or for a day one raid, than this, where I've got to keep like 5 rolls on me of a weapon at all times to have it for every possible scenario, or like go kill myself to grind for it again in a playlist in the future. This is me being a sourpuss. This is me just griping, but I do think that is a very real issue that's going to have to be discussed.
Oh yeah, it's an issue for sure. I mean, I could hear everybody in our own community yelling about it, let alone, you know, all these YouTubers and streamers and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to be I don't know. It almost, I would say, if the game was in a relatively decent spot, or the studio was in a relatively decent spot, this should be some sort of a priority. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2026 is
Like, you're no matter what, you're not getting this before 2026, the way they're
no way,
talking.
no
And they're
way.
saying they're aiming for or around Behemoth's release. To me, that says maybe you get that at Behemoth's launch. Maybe you get it with the major update that comes out 3 months in. Maybe it's that summer. Like, who knows?
I mean, I think they're being vague for that reason.
They have
don't
to.
know.
It's that far out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't have even given a time frame, frankly, but I think that would have made people even madder.
Mm-hmm.
So who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
All right. Well,
Moving on to the TWAB. God, we've got
the
so much on the
TWAB.
We've got the new artifact. We're gonna just fly through this, because I want to spend more time on the exotic armor tunings and on the suite of weapons that we're getting. Of course, column 1 is your champ mods: Anti-Barrier Scout, Overload SMG, Unstoppable Pulse, Anti-Barrier Shoddy, and Overload Breach Grenade Launcher. I
Ooh.
think some of those are a little spicy. I think the Overload Breach Grenade Launcher is going to be really fun in particular. Um, of course, I'm a big fan of Anti-Barrier Scout and I like Overload SMG. I like Unstoppable Pulse. Anti-Barrier Shotgun is a choice, but I like it. Um, Column 2, One with Frost. While Frost Armor is active, Stasis weapons gain increased reload speed and stability. Stasis Sword gain increased guard resistance. Killing Breeze. Rapid weapon final blows grant you a bonus to mobility. Weapon final blows with the Dark Ether Reaper origin trait count as more than one. So incentive to use those seasonal weapons. Enhanced Ether Generator. Dark Ether Reaper origin trait has a chance to spawn an extra Dark Ether charge. They are overcharged when that modifier is active. Fell the Revenant. Deal increased weapon damage to Scorn. Wearing Shadestalker armor increases the bonus damage. Love that. Rapid Impact. Dealing damage with a grenade launcher temporarily increases the reload speed of grenade launchers. Very, very pumped for that because that does not state that it has to be a breach loader. You can get away with doing like Edge Transit or Anarchy or Cataphract or something like that. I think that's really, really cool. Like that. Then you get into the really fun ones, I think. Wind Chill. Rapid stasis weapon precision hits grant you a bonus stack of frost armor. Rapid precision hits with weapons from Dark Ether Reaper. Oh, God, that's such a tongue twister. Origin trait grant you more stacks of frost armor. And then there's going to be boosts. We are doing boosts going forward on these, which I'm sure they talked about this in the live stream, but I'm going to be totally honest. I missed a lot of the armor talk when this was happening. Boost. Dealing stasis weapon damage to slowed targets has a chance to spawn a stasis shard. I think just when it says boost, you have to like meet those requirements. Crystalline Converter. Gather stasis shards to gain stacks of Crystalline Converter. Your next powered stasis melee hit creates stasis crystals equal to the number of stacks you have. Your boost. Stasis weapon final blows after activating your class ability spawn a stasis shard. Um, Total Carnage. After finishing a powerful opponent, grant temporary damage resistance. Very excited for this one. When you have 2 or more Shadestalker armor pieces equipped, after finishing a powerful combatant, gain increased temporary damage resistance and replenish health. Very, very interested in this one for GMs specifically. Even for the upcoming dungeon, I look forward to trying to get to this before contest mode happens. Power from Pain. Rapid final blows against weakened combatants grants you Devour, and the boost. Rapidly defeating weakened opponents spawns a Void Breach. And Trace Evidence. Rapid precision hits or rapid final blows on targets affected by Jolt or Blind will generate ionic traces, and picking up an ionic trace will grant an armor charge. They're really leaning hard into Stasis, Arc, and Void this season. Um, Column 4, the Armor of Aramis. We talked about how Aramis was going to show back up. While Frost Armor is active, taking critical damage from combatants causes you to emit a freezing burst. Very interested in this. In your boost, increases radius and strength of the freezing boost. Crystallized Auto Loader. Shattering stasis crystals releases shards of ice that damage and slow targets, and shattering frozen targets and stasis crystals will deal increased damage when you boost it. Debilitating Wave. Finishers emit a damaging wave that matches the element of your currently equipped super. Boost. While you have Arc Void or Stasis super equipped, the blast also applies Blind, Weakened, and Slow. That is huge. I love this one. I think that is so cool. Especially when we talk about, doing things like Legend Onslaught and doing contest mode dungeon. I think that one's gonna be really, really fun. I look forward to using this. I love running in and finishing off champs or powerful enemies. I really like doing that. So I'm looking forward to playing around with doing those the two finisher ones in tandem. Concussive reload. Using a grenade launcher to damage a boss champion or break a combatant shield weakens them. Using grenade and then the boost. Using GLs to damage bosses, champions, or breaking shields automatically reloads your stowed weapons. It's basically it's essentially breach and clear, really. It's just under a different name in a lot of ways. Retinal burn. Rapid arc weapon precision hits consume an armor charge to blind the target, and boosting blinds a target this way emits a blinding burst. And of course, column 5, which are your big daddy ones, your fun ones. Brain freeze. Frozen combatants become surrounded by chilling fog, which slows combatants that are not already slowed. Of course, Dark Ether Reaper origin traits will deal more damage to frozen combatants. Supernova. Picking up a void breach causes your next source of void damage to create a large weakening pulse. Conductive Cosmic Crystal. Arc abilities, void abilities, and weapons with Dark Ether Reaper origin traits do bonus damage to targets that are affected by a stasis debuff. Increase bonus damage to combatants affected by a stasis debuff when you have that boosted. Served Cold. Picking up a stasis shard grants you class ability energy. Picking up a void breach will grant melee energy. And of course, kinetic impacts.
Ooh.
This is exciting. Sustained damage with a power grenade launcher causes the combatant to emit a shockwave that damages nearby combatants. This shockwave can stop unstoppable champions. This is basically kinetic tremors for heavy GLs. That is fascinating. I like this one. I'm a really big fan of. I like the finisher ones. I think they did a really good job at making the earlier columns more appealing than they have been in the past, making it less complicated to remember. Okay, what weapons are associated with each origin trait and stuff. It's only focused on the origin traits from this season's weapons. So I really like that. Big fan of how much they're leaning into frost armor here too, considering a lot of the season seems to be stasis based. A lot of the weapons are designed and generated. I like that. Big fan of this artifact on the surface. Of course, I like grenade launchers a lot. Not as much of a fan of the breach loaders, but I do love a good heavy GL. I love my edge transits, my Wendigos. Uh, really hoping Anarchy becomes usable again. So very excited for all of that. Any thoughts on this artifact, Corey?
I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting things. It looks cool. I mean, it's um,
If
I
you
mean,
like stasis, this is a really cool
yeah,
artifact.
and we all know how Titans love stasis. So I mean, it's cool. I hope it makes stasis more controllable, to be honest. That's been my biggest gripe with Titan stasis in general, the supers especially, is just they're so chaotic and so, you know, just hard to aim. And so I
Mhm.
hope this at least makes some of the abilities, and obviously pairing weapons and armor together will do a lot of good too, to kind of clean that up, at least from a gameplay perspective besides the supers. So that's what
Yeah,
I'm kind of looking forward to, because I like the idea of stasis a lot. I just I don't use the supers because they're so hard to aim and control. So
I think Behemoth Titan has seen a lot of buffs to that super. I think you're gonna have a lot of fun this season,
yeah,
especially with the emphasis on shattering stasis crystals too, because your teammates can shatter them and get the benefits too. So I think when you combine, like especially in a fire team, if you have like all three different classes running these various not even necessarily the new exotics, but like running stasis supers or stasis abilities, like everyone's going to benefit. I think the Bleak Watcher turret is going to be really awesome with some of these changes, with like how you can shatter the crystals. A lot of things are just based around generating those stasis fragments for you to pick up. Like it's going to be a ability city out there for Bleak Watchers and for the stasis shurikens in particular.
yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm interested to see how this is going to be building into it. I don't anticipate building into it too heavily for contest dungeon. but I will be building into this as the weeks go on. I'm very, very, very excited for this. I like it a lot. We've all been looking for like stasis focus for a while because it's been a long time since we had focus on stasis.
Yeah.
I can't even remember the last time that an artifact focused heavily on stasis, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah. I don't know. I like some of these. I'm ready to explore stasis again, I think.
I am too. I'm ready to play with it. I'm very, very excited. All right. The big daddy of everything happening here, exotic armor tuning for Revenant. Holy Jesus, this is long.
Hmm.
This is by far the longest section of this entire thing. We're gonna go through this, and I'm gonna read through it
Lucky
and
Pants. Here we
try to
go.
provide clarity where I can. Lucky Pants has long been one of the most complicated exotic armor pieces, and limitations were necessary because of the maximum strength of perk. The high-end strength of Lucky Pants was causing constraints in terms of other PvE balancing, so we have decided to kill 2 hive moths with one shot and reduce the complexity while bringing down the maximum potency. To offset this, we have also added some new benefits to the exotic, which will be especially nice for our movement-focused hand cannon users who enjoy stompies but wish they also had airborne effectiveness and handling. Lucky Pants will now provide movement bonuses, including slide distance, increased slide distance, and sprint speed when a hand cannon is equipped. Airborne effectiveness is active whenever a hand cannon is equipped, not just when the illegally modded holster buff is active. No longer requires a hand cannon to be matched as super damage type or kinetic to receive the PvE damage buff. Out of luck cooldown will only trigger if you reach 7 stacks of the PvE damage buff before switching off the weapon or time expires, and maximum damage has been decreased from 600,000 to 450,000. On the surface, yes, Lucky Pants is getting a nerf. This is devastating for people who like to use Lucky Pants, but I think that the trade-offs are worth it here. You are getting the increased mobility, which I know is something that people really, really want, especially in the PvP scene. They want this. That maximum damage being decreased, though, that is kind of a blow. I know that a lot of folks were enjoying using Lucky Pants with a good hand cannon, specifically with I think it was the Adept Warden's Laws, what they were using during some Pantheon runs that I was in. I am not a huge hand cannon user. I'm always upfront with you guys. I'm not a huge hand cannon user. If you are a big hand cannon user, I would love to hear from you how you feel about the Lucky Pants nerfs. And no, I don't just mean you, John. I'd really like to hear from Hunter hand cannon users specifically how you guys feel about this. Because I'm curious. I have never been a Lucky Pants guy. I've never been a hand cannon guy. I am not good enough to use a hand cannon. I'll put it that way. Young Ahamkara Spine, Trip Mine Grenade energy on ability hits instead of on final blows. Will give you 33% grenade energy in PvE and 8% in PvP. I do like that. Instead of getting it on kills, you can't just spam these, which is what we were seeing for quite a while, and that's what led to the initial nerf. I think the two that I'm really excited for here. I'm really excited that Blight Ranger is finally getting a rework because holy shit, I was talking about this the other night about how annoyed I was that this is a really cool exotic that is useless and has been useless since the day it came out. Added the ability to cancel your Arc Staff super while equipped, damaging and blinding nearby enemies and granting a tier 4 arc weapon damage boost. Damage dealt by this effect scales based on the number of projectiles reflected prior to canceling. No longer creates orbs of power when reflecting projectiles with Arc Staff. Now it will reflecting projectiles directly refunds super energy, extending the duration of your super. I think this is cool. This is still a really, really niche piece of armor, but it's cool. The one I'm really excited for, because they took a lot of the behavior from Raiju's Harness and put it in there. They completely reworked Raiju's Harness, another one that has been basically useless since it came out in way back in Season of the Worthy. This thing has been useless for like 5 years now, and that's not even a joke. Like, legitimately, for about 5 years, this thing's been fucking useless. I'm so excited for this. They are rebuilding it based on its lore tab to differentiate it from other Arc Staff exotics. It now enhances the Gathering Storm, calling lightning down around the user when it is activated and adding a neutral game source of super energy. So check this out. Mobius Conduit, the exotic trait, activating Gathering Storm calls down lightning on all nearby targets, jolting them while also amplifying allies. Defeating arc debuffed targets grants a small amount of Gathering Storm energy. I fucking love this. I cannot wait for this. I love Gathering Storm so much, but the only way it's ever really been like super effective is if you use it in conjunction with Star Eaters, which, don't get me wrong, Gathering Storm with Star Eaters is still one of the absolute best one-shot DPS supers in the entire game. It just is. It is still incredible for pure DPS. I'm low-key probably running that in the dungeon. I really love this. I like this change a lot because now you can use this. Now it's already good for clearing out mobs. Now you can be debuffing bosses and everything else with it. You can be getting them jolted. You can getting all the minions around them jolted. It's great for GMs, I think, or for things like Dual Destiny. I really, really, really like this. Still a niche case exotic, I think, because I think most of the time we're going to go with Star Eaters or we're going to go with Relevantism, which is the exotic class item. But I really, really, really like this on the surface. Big fan, always a fan of reworking exotics to make them work in the current sandbox, and taking two of the most useless hunter exotics and making them good is awesome. Relevantism, they are reducing the melee damage bonus provided when both bionic enhancements and stylish execution are active by 50% if you have Spirit of the Syntheseps. That makes sense because combination blow, Jesus Christ. So you were able to do insane amounts of melee damage. It's Jesus Christ. That's all I can describe. Moving on. Titans. Icefall Mantle is getting completely reworked. And this, again, this is awesome. I talked to John about this briefly earlier. He's very excited about this. The core fantasy is all about becoming an invulnerable icy tank. So you now gain a stack of frost armor for rapid stasis final blows. Each time you gain a stack of frost armor from any source, you will heal for a small amount. Unique class ability granted by Icefall Mantle now provides maximum stacks of frost armor instead of the custom overshield. You will immediately heal for each stat getting added, no longer prevents sprinting or jumping, and now works with thruster equipped. Class ability energy now begins to recharge immediately after using Icefall Mantle's class ability. The burst of stasis energy from the class ability now freezes combatants and slows players, but it will no longer provide bonus stasis weapon damage and now requires a stasis super to be equipped to benefit from the exotic effects. I love it. I love it. This is fucking awesome. In a stasis-filled season, this is going to be an absolutely bonkers exotic. This thing is going to
this
be
looks crazy.
so fucking busted. I'm so excited to see people play with this because, again, Icefall Mantle is one of those that, like, unless you're playing like Heavy Behemoth, you're not using this.
Yeah.
I think this is so cool. Yes, you have to have Behemoth equipped in order to do this, and that's fine because with Prismatic, it's much more practical for you to be running it. I think. Like, I really, really, really like this.
Yeah, I
I think this
wonder.
is cool. They added so much shit here.
Yeah, I wonder how broken this is going to be at launch and how many times they're going to buff it.
I think if anything, it might slow how fast you can heal or gain the stacks of frost armor. That's what I would think. It all depends on how fast those happen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you're gonna be a fucking icy tank, like, I have no problem with you being able to be that in PvE at all. My concern is always and forever only going to be PvP balancing in terms of that. Like, let us be as powerful as we fucking want in PvE. I don't give a shit about balance there. Like, we should be super powerful. We're basically gods.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I again, it's always going to be a PvP thing. I do and don't like that the class ability will now slow players or freeze combatants. I like how it freezes combatants. Slowing players, I get it, but like, I'm also like, I'm saying this bullshit when my dodge already does that. So like, I have no room to really talk. I'm just jaded. I liked being the guy who could do that. That's how I freeze my champs a lot too. So I think that's really cool, especially if this is going to work in conjunction with freezing overloads. This could be really, really spicy. I like this a lot. The Cadmus Ridge Lance Cap. We feel this exotic as a fun gameplay loop that it's too restricted, so we're relaxing. Remove the stasis weapon requirement. Now any final blows or rapid precision hits while behind a rally barricade and with the stasis super equipped will create a diamond lance near you. Directly hitting any powerful combatant with a diamond lance will now create 3 stasis crystals. Previously, only bosses and vehicles were created additional crystals. I like this. I still think this is a really niche case thing. This is just one that's fun to play with. I think things like Onslaught could be really fun to play with this, or Vanguard Strikes, Gambit, even like there are definitely instances where you can use this. I would even mention to say maybe the Crucible. Um, I like that though. The fact that like hitting any powerful combatant with a Diamond Lance now creates the stasis crystals. That's big because like who's taking time out of DPS to throw a Diamond Lance? Let's be real.
Yeah.
So I like that. Big fan there. Ursa Furiosa and Spirit of the Bear will now increase maximum super energy gain for Unbreakable in PvE from 15 to 20%. Fixed an issue where you were getting more super energy from Unbreakable in PvP than intended. Now provides maximum of 10%. Curious of the Falling Star. We would like Curious to feel less required to make Thunder Crash viable, but also improve it to be more valuable across the whole event activity. We're
Mm.
reducing its Thunder Crash damage multiplier, but when this is combined with the buff to base Thunder Crash, the overall damage will remain the same. We're also adding the ability for it to help regenerate super energy for Thunder Crash, as well as transitioning the exotic to provide damage resistance instead of an overshield to bring it better in line with the Arc subclass. So melee final blows will amplify now grants super energy. Reduced damage bonus from Curious to Thunder Crash from 2 times to 1.5 times to keep the overall damage similar to what it was previously. And the overshield after impact has been replaced with damage resistance. 50% damage resistance in PvE and 10% in PvP. I think that's really fair. I can't tell you the amount of times I've seen John or somebody go in with a Thunder Crash and then immediately just get thrown for a loop, just immediately die. This gives you at least a shot to survive if you're in a raid encounter doing that. So I like that. God, there's so much here. Peacekeepers.
Yes, peacekeepers.
Peacekeepers have never really felt like they have a place in PvE content. So now dealing damage to combatants with an SMG increases SMG damage for a while. Maximum of 20 stacks for 100% bonus damage. Lasts for 1 second. Each hit adds a stack and refreshes the timer. We've heard rumors it pairs nicely with a couple of the exotic weapon buffs below. So really curious to see this. I know John was excited for this one too. And Mask of the Quiet One. We want to lean into the vampiric nature of this exotic by allowing it to grant access to the Devour status effect. So rapid final blows and final blows while critical health will now grant Devour. Requires a Void super to be equipped to use this effect. Stoicism. We felt limiting Spirit of the Horn, Alpha Loopy, and Hoarfrost's effects to work only with barricades did not align with the goals of Prismatic as a way to break past the limits. So we're updating them to also work with the Thruster ability. So Spirit of the Horn, now activating Thruster, leaves a ball of solar energy behind it, exploding and applying Scorch to enemies caught in the blast. Love that. Spirit of Alpha Lupi, activating Thruster heals you and nearby allies. Really love that one. And Spirit of Hoarfrost, activating Thruster spawns a pair of stasis crystals. The Alpha Lupi one is fantastic. I love that. Spirit of the Horn just sounds like it's going to be really goofy, and I like that. And Hoarfrost, okay, cool. It's more ways to get stasis abilities back faster. Love it. All right. There's a lot here for Warlocks. We're about to come out to weapons though. So starting off, Baladros Wrath Weavers. We're further enhancing the support capabilities while tweaking it to allow bonus super shatter damage to be more useful in a raid environment. Adjusted the Hearts of Ice perk to increase the shatter damage of targets frozen by Shadebinder super projectiles by 100%, regardless of who breaks them out, and granting Frost Armor to your allies with Frost Pulse or Winter's Wrath grants you super energy. Ranges and potency based on how many allies it's granted to. Like that. Again, this could be real. This could be a little spicy. I still think it's a pretty niche exotic, but that's not always bad. Like there are a lot of fun play styles, and I think it's important that we are buffing and reworking exotics that just don't get used a lot to give them a chance to shine over like the 3 or 4 that people really cling to and build around. There's room to still play off meta. And I think this is one of those that's going to be really fun to play off meta with. Skull of Dire Ahamkara. I know that Joe was really excited for this one. Neutral game benefit that feels fitting for the Voidwalker playstyle. Weapon defeats while Devour is active will grant super energy, range from 1% to 4.5%, depending on the target type defeated. For somebody like Joe who has Devour up constantly, there are going to be Nova bombs flying everywhere. and I'm very excited to see that in higher end content. Really, really like that. Sanguine Alchemy is probably the biggest change that's coming, though. Warlocks have some of the lowest exotic armor variety in PvP, and for a while it felt like they were missing a target marking exotic in the same realm as Knucklehead Radar or One-Eyed Mask. We wanted to be careful and make sure the target marking didn't feel unfair to fight in Crucible like it did in the original iteration. We also wanted to make sure it was in line with the soon-to-be upcoming post-nerf state of Knucklehead Radar. To activate target marking, you must damage a target from within a rift, and the mark will fall off after 5 seconds compared to the just look at them and get 7 seconds of marking from the current Knucklehead Radar. Deal 10% extra damage from any source against marked targets, and provide surge times 4 that matches your super damage to weapons that match your super damage. I think this is going to be really fun to play with in PvP. I don't know how meta it's going to be, but I think for Warlocks in PvP, this could be really, really fun. That first Iron Banner could get a little nutty with this. Now everyone has a target marking exotic. Knucklehead Radar has been used for quite a while. Before that, it was like Foe Tracer was being used a lot. I'm very curious to see how this one goes. We all remember the terror of One-Eyed Mask also. Very well. We all remember that one. So I am interested to see how this one plays out. Haven't heard a whole lot of talk on this one yet. I want to hear some PvPers weigh in on it this week, and maybe we'll revisit this one on the next episode. But this sounds really cool right off the bat. Verity's Brow and Spirit of Verity. Front loading more of the bonus grenade damage to increase the potency, even if you aren't able to build full stacks. First stack of Death Throws now provides plus 40% grenade damage in PvE, which is up from 20%. And each additional stack now provides plus 15% grenade damage, up to a maximum of 100% at 5 stacks. PvP is unchanged, as it should be. Cenotaph Mask. Damaging a vehicle, boss, or champion with a trace rifle will once again visually mark the target for the player using Cenotaph. Great. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Osteomancies can feel frustrating to play against in PvP, as they can allow Cold Snap Seekers to catch players in ways that feel unfair. We want to address that without adjusting the bonus grenade energy they provide to keep PvE in viability intact. Seeker distance and spread has been reduced by 50%. That is a pretty big hit to Osteomancies for those who use them in PvP. And this is a pretty heavily used one, I would say, in PvP for Warlocks, especially now with Prismatic. So interested to see how much this affects. I could see some of this getting walked back, but I do agree that is a pretty frustrating one to play against. I think they're going to end up reducing this to like the 30% range. 50 feels like a lot. That feels like a lot here, but what the fuck do I know?
What do you know, Josh?
Not much about Warlocks, I'll tell you that. And then the final piece of armor here, Speaker Sight. We've pretty rapidly pulled the parachute on Speaker Sight, Orb Generation, and Crucible, as it made for some less favorable play patterns. Yep. After some iteration and playtesting, we think we've landed in a spot where we can bring back the Orb Generation without encouraging self-damage and stalling at the start of a match. 6 instances of healing a damaged ally in Crucible will now spawn an Orb of Power. So interested to see if that gets broken too. I kind of wonder if they're just going to yank that all together in PvP, but we'll see. That was terrifying to play against the first couple weeks. That there's a lot of armor there that we talked about. Anything that specifically caught your anything that caught your eye up there at all that we didn't go in depth about?
No, I think we. I'm not gonna lie to you, Josh. I think we covered everything.
I think when you look at this, obviously Lucky Pants is a really huge change. I love the rework of Raiju's harness. Icefall Mantle, I think, is the most consequential one of all of these. And Sanguine Alchemy, kind of the dark horse here. I really, really like the changes to Sanguine Alchemy to give them that target marking PvP exotic.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Icefall Mantle, and I'm interested to see Mask of the Quiet One, to be honest, for this season specifically. I mean, not that it's going to be like super effective or anything. It just seems like, they're changing it to kind of fit the season. So I wonder if that's going to, Make
Yeah,
it
I
more.
mean, I always think that I think anything that can grant Devour is always going to be really fun to play around with. Of course, in PvP that's always interesting, but I really love the idea of that in PvE. I just wonder, like, is that something you're gonna sacrifice, like an exotic class item, or say like in a stasis season, are you gonna sacrifice Icefall Mantle for it?
Yeah.
But mixing and matching, always fun. I am interested in Mask of the Quiet One to fit the vampiric nature of the season. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, super damage exotic tuning. Things that they are dialing in or increasing. Taking a pass at balancing the potential damage output provided to one-shot super abilities. Here we go.
Here
All
we
right.
go.
Curious that a falling star plus thunder crash ultimately is unchanged. Pyrogale Gauntlet, for the reasons we discussed above. Pyrogale Gauntlets plus Burning Maul, 10% damage increase. Spirit of the Star Eater with Nova Bomb, 12% less. Spirit of the Star Eater and Twilight Arsenal, 26% less. Spirit of the Star Eater and Needle Storm, unchanged. Star Eaters and Storm's Edge, unchanged. Celestial Nighthawk plus Golden Gun, minus 5% versus bosses only. So some of the reasons that some of the things we're getting here um, is kind of fascinating. We feel this order reflects the advantages and disadvantages inherent in each super, with those that are quicker and easier to use, outputting less damage than those that ask more of their user. The range of damage is such that in Revenant, Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun will still deal around 70% of the damage of a Curious Thunder Crash. So while these changes may look scary, they're actually going to bring these supers closer together in damage, allowing for more options to be competitive and viable in the most challenging content. Awesome, that's how it should be. Needle Storm and Gathering Storm were already aligned with these goals and are not receiving any adjustments. Stoked. Fucking stoked on those.
Yep.
Uh, we already talked. Curious the Falling Star. Cool with the changes, and when you have that equipped, you'll put out the same overall damage compared to the live game now. Pyrogale Gauntlets increase Cyclone's damage by 10%. Spirit of the Star Eater reduced the benefit granted to Nova Bomb and Thunder Crash from 70 to 50%. However, when paired with the increased Thunder Crash base damage, you actually get a 15% increase to damage compared with live. And then this is the big one: reduced benefit granted to Twilight Arsenal from 70% to 25%. That is a big one, but Twilight Arsenal just absolutely nukes those health bars. We already talked about how like the bonus axes were going to be the ones kind of getting adjusted, and now we're kind of hitting super overall. I still think it's probably the second best Titan super in the game right now. Probably, arguably, is still the best one, but yeah, bringing everything more in line so you can't just like have that and like a golden gun nuking everything makes a lot of sense. I can't tell you how quickly the bar erased off of that Hydra in Encore when John used Twilight Arsenal, and I wasn't even using a damage super. I was using Orpheus rigs, and it just melted, absolutely melted. And I know you can do that on the Spire of the Watcher boss too. So um, I'm interested to see how this goes. I like it. I think reducing Celestial Nighthawk a little bit, and it's only versus bosses by 5%. That's still like that and Gathering Storm far and away still the two best Hunter damage supers. It's not even a contest. So
Yeah.
I like that. They're also like they're the one shot supers too. So I kind of get why they're nerfing that because Celestial Nighthawk. Oh, you pop it, shoot your crit, and then go back to DPSing. So I get it. All right, weapon tuning and new mods for Revenant. This is our second big section that we have here. Before we get to Jesus, this is actually probably the longest section. I was just
Jesus.
scrolling. I didn't think this was going to be that long, and then I was like, oh my god, there's so much here. All right, so auto rifles, scout rifles. Um, this is all based on more accurate gameplay and PvE for the record, without making content feel like a slog. So we've made a redistribution of the damage dealt by most primary weapons. This means slightly increasing the critical hit damage while reducing body shot damage by a corresponding amount. Each subfamily has been tuned by hand, but they all fall within the 5 to 7% range. So I don't really want to. I'm not going to go through all of this. To be super clear, like auto rifle, scout rifles, pulse, SMG, sidearms, hand cannons, all got crit hit damage increased by 5 to 7% and decreased body shot damage by 5 to 7%, whatever. Um, Heavy burst pulse rifles. Tale of Two Worlds, incredibly strong in PvE and unfortunately not up to par in PvP. We wanted to bring them more in line for both sandboxes, so we've increased the RPM by approximately 20 while reducing PvE damage to slightly more than offset the faster rate of fire. This ends up granting them a faster time to kill in PvP while reducing DPS by approximately 10% in PvE. Graviton Lance and Revision Zero Heavy Burst Mode have been reduced by 8% as part of this. Ultimately, decreased damage by 18% for legendary weapons in this family. So essentially, Nullify and Aisha's Curse are being hit by this. Sniper rifles. Reduced flinch against combatants by 50%, reduced camera roll against players by 10%, increased damage against minors by 60%, majors 75%, mini bosses 35%, champions 25%. Snipers might be back. Very, very, very interesting in this. So I like that they have said that they're going to start walking the camera roll against players back until they
Mm-hmm.
find a good place for that to be in. They think it's too jarring right now, and I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Uh, so interested to see how that goes. Glaives are going to get a more substantial update in Heresy, but we want to correct a long lingering issue where previews of the magazine size could be incorrect depending on your perks. Shotguns minimum damage after fallout has been increased from 0% to 40% for damage versus AI only.
Mm.
So that's interesting. Rocket assisted sidearms.
Yeah.
Oh
Give it
man,
to
I'm
me.
a little bummed about this one.
Oh.
I understand why it needed to happen, but Kings of the Mountain in PvE right now, in large part, that stems from their ability to be effectively used as a primary weapon. We'll be taking a larger look at their dominance and heresy, but for now, we will reduce their ammo reserves by 25% and make
Boo.
yeah, I'm gonna need everybody to still be making me special ammo. Luckily, I don't seem to have too much of a problem, but I have run into this where like that's like all I use in like a battleground or in an activity because I have so much special spawning that I'm just running that constantly.
Yeah.
Reduced ammo reserve by 25%. That is, I don't want to say it's like the end of the world, but that's going to take like the amount of reserves I can have from 44, for instance, in a Baron action to roughly 34 shots, which just means I have to like kind of watch myself a little bit more. Um, Not the end of the world, but like not great either. I don't think they can walk this one back though. Those that and indebted kindness has had like a year of dominance. Like I get it. I totally understand. If you're gonna give us a stasis one on top of that, I get it. Trace rifles can be strong in the right hands in Crucible, but for most players, they are too ammo hungry to get good use out of them. Increased base PvP ammo from both spawn and crate from 25 to 29. High impact machine guns increased crit hit damage by 4%. Heavy ammo grenade launchers have turned into something of a fire in the general direction and get kills weapon that also benefit from having a substantial amount of ammo in both sandboxes. So now, decreased damage from detonation by 5% against combatants, increased projectile impact damage correspondingly globally. So like you're still getting, if you're still firing at a boss, you're still getting those hits essentially. PvE total damage is the same, just split differently between detonation and impact. In PvP, now deal approximately between 7% and 26% more impact damage, depending on the blast radius stat. And then rapid fire frames will increase that impact and detonation damage by 7%. There's micro tuning happening for PvP, just because like this, we have been talking for quite a while already. Everyone, these are a bunch of numbers. I'm gonna let you guys go through these and read them for yourselves rather than me just reciting off a bunch of numbers at you.
No, Josh, read the numbers.
I'm not reading the numbers. Some of these are like 0.6 or like
Read the numbers.
0.07 seconds. I'm in something that's this long and we're only like halfway through. I'm not at an hour and a half. I'm not doing it.
Oh.
Exotic weapon tuning is more important. This perks mods, we still got all that and a weapon suite to get to. So all right. Choir of One shipped a bit hot in PvE, both in terms of how much ammo it could carry in reserves and how much damage it was dealing at point blank range. On the other hand, in PvP, players quickly realized they had the opposite problem. So reduced base reserves from 250 to 200, max reserves reduced from 384 to 300. Point blank projectile damage has been reduced by 50%. Hipfire projectile damage has been increased by 10%, and now starts with 7 ammo in Crucible and gains 7 from crates and ammo bricks. Interesting. I think part of the appeal of Choir One is how overpowered it was.
Hmm.
Uh, Joe was using it today. We did a Dual Destiny today, and he was using it in there and just was shredding everything. I think that's part of the appeal of that gun. Um, so I'm interested to see how this affects that one in the sandbox. John was very excited for this one. Huckleberry now fully reloads on kills, replaced Catalyst with kinetic tremors. That combined with oh god, which one was I got to scroll back up and find it. In the Titan exotics, the Peacekeepers. That is going to be a spicy combo.
Yeah.
That's a spicy meatball. I like that one.
Spicy
Um,
meatball.
Spicy meatball. Teraba. When Ravenous Beast is active, gain damage resist against incoming solar damage. 50% versus combatants, 15% against players. Symmetry now gains a stack of dynamic charge on kills in addition to precision hits. Duality on Blackwing stacks for max effect, reduced from 5 to 3. Extended duration of buff from 7 seconds to 10 seconds to make it a bit easier to use in PvE. Bad Juju. Excited about this Bad Juju change. Increased lifetime of String of Curses from 3.5 seconds base to 5.5 seconds, 7.5 seconds with the Catalyst. Increased magazine size from 27 to 36 because it has a hard time getting its kill streak going in PvE. The weapon also appears to have become more haunted than it used to be.
Ooh,
I'm
haunted, you say?
very excited for this. I like Bad Juju, and I think when you pair that with something that's designed to give you your super quicker, refund your super quicker, for instance, such as Orpheus rigs, or even like Star Eaters, I get really excited thinking about this because I think there's some really good combos there. I like Thrush on a good weapon. I try not to use it too much because there's usually a lot better options. But for instance, on my glaives, I run Thrush.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm interested to see how this stacks up with Bad Juju. I like an excuse to use a good pulse rifle, and Bad Juju has not been a really like good go-to option in quite a while. I primarily play PvE content. It just hasn't. It's fallen behind, and that's cool. Like we're revisiting it. We're buffing things appropriately because the power creep has gotten so ridiculous in this game. Ex Dearest is fairly hard to use and more ammo hungry compared to other similar options without a significant enough payout. So there's a lot of adjustments for high end content here. Increased direct hit damage versus combatants by 33%. Reduced camera recoil from firing by 50%. Increased the velocity, increased the gravity, +5 ammo and reserves. Now spawns a moth on 2 direct hits. Reduced moth cooldown from 4 seconds to 3 seconds. Interested to see how that goes. This always felt like more of a novelty weapon to me. This is the Hive Boomer launcher that we got in the Season of the Witch. Um, Gotta confess, didn't use it a whole lot. This really does feel like it is a more of a novelty weapon, and I think they want to get it out of that niche.
Hmm.
Um, Fighting Lion now spawns a volatile burst on direct hits. I think that's pretty cool. Um, there's there are cults to the Fighting Lion, but I really like that. Like almost every year during Festival of the Lost, it feels like we're revisiting Fighting Lion. Like that's just the time that we do it.
Hmm.
They used to give us the catalyst for it during the runs in the Haunted Forest. You could like supercharge the catalyst by doing those runs. Prospector. Tell me when's the last time you thought about Prospector?
It's been a long time,
Year
Josh.
one, Destiny 2. um Prospector now spawns 3 powerful cluster bombs on detonation, dealing substantially more damage per shot over a much larger area than previously. Removed sticky grenade, flame grenade, and remote detonation function. Mag size reduced to 6. Bonus ammo reserves on the catalyst changed to +50 reload speed. Interested to see if this is going to be viable or not, because I can't tell you the last time I heard anybody talk about Prospector.
Hmm.
Like, literally ever. So, hey, I'm interested to see if this works out with the new changes that they're doing. Um, Chaperone. It's getting the global shotgun changes that were talked about in the individual tuning that we did not do, but added the ability to trigger Roadborne on 2 rapid precision hits. Precision hits with this perk active also extended by 3 seconds, +20 stability, +25% reload speed while Roadborne is active, and increased the base ammo reserved. And then Lumina updated hipfire projectiles to behave more closely to support auto rifle healing shots. So that's needed. That, of course, is the whole function of Lumina as a gun. Weapon perks. We've got some quick ones to fly through here. Slice now works correctly in Crucible. I laughed about that. Slideways can now be refreshed if you slide again following the completion of the initial slide. Widened the trigger on alloy mag, so it provides value more often. So increases reload speed when the magazine is near empty. Auto loading holster and reconstruction. This is the big one that people are upset about. Man.
Hmm.
All
You
right.
okay there, Josh?
Well, I have opinions on this one, and I think it mainly affects those who hot swap. So basically, if you play on PC, this is going to affect you. I think it matters less for console players. But auto loading holster increased the time to reload by 1 second for both base and enhanced, and reconstruction increased time to start reloading by 2 seconds for both base and enhanced. I don't. It's not the end of the world, but it's not great. It is going to require a change of some DPS strats for Mac to maximize DPS. This is actually 1 second is kind of a big deal in DPS phases when there's enrage mechanics and tokens and things like that. That is kind of a big deal. And doing this right before a dungeon,
Yeah.
a little interested to see how this plays out. Right before a contest mode dungeon, I think that adds a new little wrinkle to it.
Yeah.
For those who are trying to go in and complete. Specifically, this is going to impact those who go to use like auto loading bait and switch, for
Hmm.
instance.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big one for them. So I'm very interested on that one. I don't love this change on the surface. I actually think it's like pretty shitty for the high end players. This is one of those things that like I feel that people who don't understand this, just like no offense, this is a literal skill issue.
Yeah.
um I think that this is basically just taking away that skill gap, and I don't love that. I think there should still be like, hey, you're able to do this because like you have different hardware, or you just have the skill to do that, and like to know what weapon combos go with being able to quickly swap and whatnot. Like there is something to be said about that. Like this mainly affects the high end PVE player base, which is why
Hmm.
I don't love that. I think that part of the excitement is seeing that like 95% of your players probably that engage in activities like that probably are not making use of this.
Yeah.
Let's be totally honest. I think that this won't affect the average player. Reconstruction might, but I don't think auto loading is going to affect the average player. It is going to affect a lot of people that we know, though, and I'm not a big fan of it. So even if I'm not personally utilizing it, I think this is a bad change, and I wouldn't be surprised if they walked the auto loading holster one back just a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you can walk that back, like maybe to half a second, maybe like 0.7, but like, maybe it gets walked back a little bit. Um, Master of Arms can now stack up to times two. Times one grants 15% damage for 7 seconds, plus times two grants 25% damage for 4 seconds, and drops to one when the timer expires. So interesting, because that perk was not where they wanted it to be. I agree. Master of Arms was really disappointing on Recluse. Um, the Dawning Origin. Remove the time limit between kills now requires kills in a life instead of in rapid succession. And Iron Banner perks have long been divisive on their use due to their stat cooldown, so we're reducing the downsides. For Reach, Iron Reach, Gaze, and Grip reduce the downside stat penalties from minus 30 to minus 20 at base, and minus 25 to minus 15 for the enhanced. All right, new weapon mods. And then we get to talk new weapons. We're getting to the end, guys. I promise. Whew. Weapon mods. This might be the most exciting part of this entire TWAB for me, honestly. I really like this, to add new weapon mods. It's been a long time. Combo stat mods bundles two stats of +6 and +6. You have ballistics, which gives you range and stability. Tactical, which is reload and handling. Aerodynamics, blast radius, projectile speed. I can absolutely see that being a big thing for non-adept heavy weapons. I can see that being a big deal. Or even for adept heavy weapons. I like that. Tension, which is draw time and accuracy, and edge, which is charge rate and guard resistance. Um, there is an anti-flinch one being added, 15% flinch reduction. Big, big, big for those who like to use snipers in PvP. I would even say for those who like to sit there and pluck away with their pulse rifles. Ammo finder enhancement, very, very, very cool with this one. Special finder enhancement and heavy finder enhancement, both of which are going to uh, progress 10% faster per kill to generate those bricks. I like that. Optics mods allows customization of weapon zoom. So marksman optics, you can get high or low, so +2 or -2 zoom on snipers, linear fusions, scout rifles, bows, LMGs, trace rifles, and rocket launchers. And then CQC optics, which is for hand cannons, pulse, auto, SMG, sidearm, fusion rifle, breach grenade launcher, and heavy grenade launchers are going to be +1 and -1 respectfully. Big deal for snipers and linears in particular. I think I like the idea of playing around with this on a scout rifle also in PvP. Sometimes I just wish I could see a little bit more so I know where my shots are going just a little bit better. So I like the idea of that. I think that could be really fun. Um, Synergy. Escalating chance to spawn a subclass bauble matching the weapon's damage type. Kinetic weapons spawn an orb of power instead. And then stun loader. This is a this is going to be massive for GMs. This is maybe the coolest one out of a suite of very cool weapon mods. Partially refills the weapon's magazine when you stun a champion. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've had to use up like all my ammo stunning a champ to reload, and then suddenly it is just moving again. So excited for this specifically in things like master lost sectors. I think
Yeah.
this is going to be really, really beneficial. Very excited here.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so glad that we're getting weapon mods. We haven't had new weapon mods in years.
I know. I feel like it's been because they tried to tie a lot of them to the artifacts though, right? That was kind of like the
Yes.
change, right? And then they just kind of kept bringing the same ones back. It
Yeah.
felt like.
But I like this a lot. The combo stat mods I think are so cool. These can be equipped on enhanced or crafted weapons for the record. These cannot be slapped on just any weapon. So I think that gives you again, like, why would you be doing this if you're getting rid of crafted weapons? But I guess that means every weapon going forward can be enhanced. So,
Yeah.
uh, I think it's trying to push you more towards the modern sandbox.
Yeah.
Let go of the old weapons. Thoughts for the future. I'm interested in this quite a bit for Heresy. Heresy and beyond. Upcoming changes include significant updates to glaives. Yes, a particularly underutilized heavy ammo sniper. It's got to be fucking Darcy.
I was gonna say it's probably
Uh,
Darcy.
and
Jeez.
even aggressive frame fusion rifles. Further down the line, we have big plans for a wide change to the overall ammo economy, including more determinism and build crafting options. Love hearing that. I expect that to be something in Apollo or Behemoth, though. So I'm not going to get too excited for that. I think that's going to be part of Weapons 3.0 or whatever they're going to call it at this point.
Mhm.
So overall, really, really, really big fan of those mods, though. That's maybe the most exciting part of a pretty damn good job
Yeah.
for me. But we're not done yet, Corey. If we're going to hunt down the Scorn, we got to have new gear.
These weapons look so cool.
I think they look cool. I'm interested to see if we how they look with some shaders on them, just
Yeah,
because
like some
seeing orange triggers me on weapons now after all the Vanguard weapons I've gotten over the years and all the Vanguard shaders.
yeah, I think these would look cool with like purple shaders, like gray and purple almost.
Yeah, I kind of want to throw some of the Vex shaders on these. Like,
Yeah.
I love using Descendant Vex Chrome and Mercury Vex Chrome on a lot of stuff because it makes it look like Iron Banner esque.
Yeah.
Interested to see some of the Callus shaders on here too. I think some of the old Leviathan shaders could be
Oh
really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, these are so Dark Ether Harvest. It's going to be the origin trait. We don't have it here. Perks can be enhanced, and during Act 1, you'll have the following 7 weapons available. There are some redacted perks in there we prefer you to find out about while playing. So I'm going to go through these very quickly. Um, Insurmountable is a void precision frame sidearm.
Okay.
Column 1 is going to be redacted, repulsor brace, to the pain, threat detector, attrition words, demolitionist, air trigger. And column 2 is going to be destabilizing, desperate measures, one for all, surrounded, rampage, redacted, and harmony. On the surface, repulsor brace, destabilizing. You can never go wrong with that on a void weapon. I really hope these redacted perks are good though, because so many perks on all these are redacted. I look forward to seeing how those are going to work on a sidearm. We don't know what they are, obviously. But I hope that it's something more excited, because right now, like, repulsor brace is really the only thing for that first column. That second column is like, oops, all bangers for me. Destabilizing, one for all, surrounded, rampage, all great options for a sidearm, I think. Sovereignty, the void adaptive frame sniper. You've got explosive payload, discord, reconstruction, enlightened action, no distractions, demolition strategist. Second column, harmony, desperate measures, precision instruments, redacted, box breathing, adrenaline junkie, firing line. Just a lot of perks you typically find on the sniper. Again, I really hope that redacted perk is really fun. Um, Firing line and box breathing are always good options. Precision instrument is a good option. Um, and then I think obviously no distractions and reconstruction are great options for a sniper as well. Red tape, the stasis lightweight frame scout rifle. Redacted, keep away, redacted. Attrition orbs, fourth times envious. And then column 2 is going to be headstone, high impact reserves, focused fury, one for all, explosive payload, harmony, rampage. Again, oops, all bangers. I love fourth times and envious assassin being on this. I like headstone is always going to be a go-to on stasis weapons for me. I like one for all. I like focused fury. Very interesting. 3 redacted perks though. Like, it's really hard to like evaluate what roles I want without knowing what those perks are. But like we kind of broke down, it going forward in the future, we're going to talk weapon rolls a couple weeks into the act, so that have time to play around with some of these rolls and see, like, especially if you're going to drop this many new perks, that I think you're going to have like 4 new perks here. It seems like, depending on what columns they're in. I'm very interested to see how those are going to play out. Vantage point is an arc adaptive pulse. Redacted, keep away, stats for all, deconstruct, to the pain, redacted, and feeding frenzy. And then you're going to get volt shot, one for all, high impact reserves, desperate measures, multi kill clip, swashbuckler, headseeker. Just right away on a pulse. I really like the idea of feeding frenzy, headseeker. I love volt shot being on this, because I think I'm trying to think of another pulse that has volt shot on it. In particular, I think of the one on Neomuna that is such a pain in the ass to get crafted. To even get it to drop as a red border is a huge pain in the ass. So really like the idea of this being on something multi-kill clip on a pulse. Big frame of that. Big fan of that. Exuvae, which is the stasis aggressive frame hand cannon, which is an R120. I know people are like, ugh, another 120. You got redacted, triple tap, to the pain, encore, redacted, stats for all, outlaw. Column 4, you've got headstone, precision instrument, desperate measures, adrenaline junkie, redirection, harmony, one for all. Triple tap headstone is going to be big. I could see obviously outlaw, tired and true classic. Bittersweet, arc adaptive frame grenade launcher. You're gonna get reverberation, strategist, stats for all, unrelenting, perpetual motion, attrition orbs, loose change, and redacted. And second column, you're gonna get redacted, cascade point, explosive light, bait and switch, harmony, killing tally, and frenzy. I am so excited for this. I don't really love that first column. I think it's interesting, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. That second column already has cascade, explosive light, bait and switch, killing tally on a grenade launcher, and frenzy. Very, very interested to see how this works as an ad clear weapon in particular. I think this could be really fun. And then liturgy, which is your stasis double fire grenade launcher. This is interesting. Uh, Column 3 is redacted. You start off with redacted. Envious assassin, overflow, reconstruction, pugilist, slideways, surplus, redacted. Column 4, you're getting chill clip, harmony, lead from gold, swashbuckler, chain reaction, desperate measures, one for all. I can tell you right now, right off the bat, a great perk for this is going to be envious assassin or overflow in that first column. Reconstruction could be really cool on this. That second column, you got to be doing chill clip, chain reaction, lead from gold. I think are all great options on this. I cannot wait to see what the redacted perks are on all these weapons,
Yeah,
because
I
I
mean that.
wonder if they're new ones or if they're just ones that they want us to find out on our own
I
side.
wonder if it's a little column A, a little column B. I'm sure they're going to
It's gotta be.
introduce
It's got to be.
a couple like season specific ones, right? Or like these weapons specifically.
Hmm.
I guess that's what the origin traits are, but
Yeah, I'm interested to see, like, I mean, and they could just be perks that they introduce like slowly. We did get that with the Brave Arsenal with desperate measures for the record.
yeah.
So and we are starting to see one of the raid perks, Paracausal Affinity, start to trickle out onto other weapons this season as well. Um we said we were going to talk about weapon crafting. Let's do the weapon crafting. Um oh boy. As we
Cool.
look back at Into the Light, we believe part of its success was to change for Brave Arsenal weapons, with the attunement system helping to focus that pursuit. No, we were interested in chasing the shiny rolls. That's what people wanted to chase. I don't think anybody logged and was like, yes, so I'm grinding for weapons again. Like, no, we got our weapons fairly easily. It was the chase for the shinies that kept a lot of us engaged and farming that activity dozens, if not hundreds of times. Um, we want to move towards that experience. So, starting in Revenant, the seasonal weapons will not be craftable. Perks can be enhanced using extra materials, and there will be updates to unlock as you play the episode to target specific weapons and even get extra perks per columns. Now, that is a big deal for me. You can get the extra perks. I like that. If you can get up to like double or triple perks, like you've been able to with some of the Vanguard and Crucible weapons in the past, that could be a really big deal. I mean, cap me out at 2 or 3. I don't even care, but like that will help reduce the strain on the vaults, I think, a little bit. Still not as much as crafting would, but we believe the activities and episodes work better when built around the gear chase, rewarding you with more than other activities and unlocking improvements like vendor focusing to help you get your desired rolls, or even the option to get more perks in a given column. Um, yeah, I can, but I see them like giving us the extra perks. Like that's going to be kind of like how crafting was for echoes. Like it was always the last thing you unlocked in an act. I very much see that happening here. Like, oh, we're not going to give you the extra perks until like week 3 or 4 or something,
Mhm.
or like until act 2 maybe. Like I 100% can see that happening, unfortunately. Crafting will remain a way for players to get that role they desire, and it's not going away, as you can see below. But for some time, the value of individual weapon drops in that God roll pursuit has been replaced, if not nullified, by whether or not they drop a deep sight activated. We hope this change will revitalize the passion to hunt down new weapons. Not not a huge fan on the surface of this. Like I get where they're coming from, but um, I don't see how this is exciting for anybody other than those who do nothing but play this game. This is not personally. This is not exciting to me. As a, I would say, like I still play an above average amount of this game, but I still consider myself casual.
Mhm.
um, this is not exciting to me. um, I have long struggled with the idea of like in an MMO that you're supposed to play the same activity over and over and over and over and over again. That this is just, I don't know, not a huge fan. um we are getting reprised Garden of Salvation weapons, which is a big deal to me. um While seasonal weapons will be return more towards a focus on the chase, we want to reward invested players with great weapons that can be crafted. Um, I don't know if I agree with this statement. We believe that the friction nature of the rotator and the revamped content are more closely aligned with our goals for weapon crafting.
Mhm.
So, get ready to jump back into the raid and visit Hawthorne at the tower. She will offer a quest that grants a deep sight version of a weapon every week. So similar to the Last Wish reprise.
Mhm.
Um, and there's new perks coming. Reckless Oracle, which is the Void Rapid Fire Auto Rifle, is going to get destabilizing rounds and Paracausal Affinity added to it. Occurred Redemption is the Kinetic Precision Bow, Offhand Strike, and Archer's Gambit. Zealot's Reward, the Void Rapid Fire Fusion, is going to get destabilizing and Reservoir Burst. Ancient Gospel is changing to being a Void Hand Cannon with Rampage and Kill Clip on it. I don't love that because that's basically Kindled Orchid. That's essentially what it is.
Mhm.
So fine, whatever. Um, Sacred Provenance. This is the one I'm excited about. Sacred Provenance, which is the kinetic pulse rifle that you can get out of there, can outroll with Demolitionist and Kinetic Tremors. Prophet of Doom is the Arc Precision Shoddy, Threat Remover, and Volt Shot, and an Omniscient Eye, the Solar Rapid Fire Sniper, can roll with fourth times the charm and precision instruments. So nothing like super life altering here. I think Reckless Oracle getting Paracausal Affinity could be really interesting. I like Paracausal Affinity as a perk. I have it on my Nullify. Really, really like it. Um, and I'm a big fan of the Sacred Providence changes for sure. And then, God, we are almost done. Um,
Even more weapons.
even more weapons. These are the playlist weapons you can get. The pursuit weapon for all three vendors is going to be Fair Judgment, which is a stasis precision auto rifle. I think that's cool. Um, Crucible is getting an arc lightweight sidearm called Anonymous Autumn. Very excited to chase that one personally. Comp is getting Deadlock, which is a stasis precision frame shoddy. Vanguard Ops is getting another grenade launcher. The Wicked Sister, which is a strand adaptive grade grenade launcher. I'm most excited for these next two activities, though. Nightfalls are getting Plug One, which is the Arc Precision Fusion coming back, along with Rake Angle, which is our first ever primary slot glaive. It's a stasis aggressive glaive. Super interested for this to be a what you call it, an adept weapon, a Nightfall adept weapon. Very interested to see how this one plays out. We got Scintillation this season, which was a strand linear fusion. Very excited to see how this one plays out. I can't wait. And then Gambit is bringing back one of my most beloved weapons of all time in Destiny 2, Bygones, the kinetic
Bygones.
pulse rifle. I'm so excited for this. Bygones is a weapon that you would have to have pried out of my vault. I was never going to delete it. It has sat there for years. I still occasionally use it in the Crucible. I'm so excited for this to come back. I will be playing Gambit. I am so excited to get this weapon back. I can't
Yeah.
even begin to tell you.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. I remember really liking that weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then, of course, there are even more weapons coming in this episode with new each act. You'll have the dungeon weapons to try starting on October 11th. And then let's not forget about the 4 weapons from Season of the Splicer getting reprised. We know about 3 of them so far. I do not know the 4th one. If somebody does know the 4th one, please feel free to message me and let me know. But so far, it appears we are getting Ignition Code, Chroma Rush, and Sojourner's Tale, which was the shoddy. So three good choices coming back,
Crowbar
especially
Rush, man.
especially that Chroma Rush. I know
Mm.
people are going to be really excited for that. Curious to see if they give it an affinity this time or if they keep it kinetic. I'd be much more excited if it was it probably won't be a strand, but if it was a stasis one, I'd be really excited. I think there's some interesting opportunities there. Um, so that's cool. Very, very excited for those and to see the perk pools on those once they officially launch. And then, of course, it would not be an update without, we were just complaining about this, Iron Banner armor.
I know. We were literally just talking about this last week, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
It's pretty cool looking.
It's cool looking armor. I feel it feels very like Dark Souls inspired to me.
Yeah.
I really, really like it. Specifically that I think that Titan and the Titan and Warlock sets feel that way.
Well,
The Hunter set is kind of more of the same.
The Titan helmet almost looks like Fickrell's helmet.
Yeah, that actually looks really cool. I like that, and I like the bath towel. Big fan of that. Like that.
Yeah.
The Hunter, it's kind of more of the same. I'm pretty sure I have that exact helmet somewhere, but I'm interested to see how the cloak ultimately looks. And I like the arm guard that we have on the shoulder. Big fan of that. Iron Banner is coming back for 2 consecutive weeks starting November 5th.
Yeah.
God, dude. I would be waiting to drop this personally. Like, why are we announcing this now? But whatever. I digress.
To get
Whatever.
you ready, Josh, you gotta start grinding those weapons now so we can.
So stupid. I am excited for one of these weapons though. Tanisha's Mastery Stasis Rocket Frame Sidearm. Column 1 is going to come with Air Trigger, Offhand Strike, Deconstruct, Enlightened Action, Impulse Amplifier, Loose Change, and Reverberation. That second column is going to have Adagio, Bait and Switch, Chill Clip, Desperate Measures, Frenzy, One for All, and Surrounded. Impulse Chill Clip is going to go so fucking hard on this thing. I'm going to have to play a disgusting amount of Iron Banner. If I get this roll in one game, I'm never playing another round of Iron Banner this season. Fuck the armor. I'm taking my sidearm and going home. I
Going
promise.
home.
I'm so excited
Taking
to
my
get
ball.
Impulse Amplifier Chill Clip on a fucking sidearm. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know.
I'm so excited. It's Stasis season. I'm so excited. Like just as I'm like bemoaning some of the changes to rocket sidearms, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is great. There's so many ways to like generate special ammo too for your team. Like I'm very excited for this. And then Archon's Thunder, which is the LMG, is coming back, and it's going to be a stasis LMG now with air trigger, enlightened action, redacted, dynamic sway, envious assassin, 4 times and high impact, and in column 2, of course, desperate measures, onslaught, headstone, killing tally, tap the trigger, target lock, rewind rounds. This could be a really spicy LMG.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I always like dynamic sway. But envious assassin and 4 times combined with things like onslaught, headstone, killing tally, target lock, rewind rounds, like that second column is fucking stacked. So I'm actually pretty excited for both of these weapons. Very interested to see how they end up playing out. Um, and then the last thing we have here, apparently weapon ornaments needed to be fixed, and I don't remember that. So if you're interested in that, you can read about it. There's a bit on Inverted Spire here. Again, you can read about it if you're interested in Brotheon. Um, and then our first ever Discord quest. This is the last thing we have here. Do you enjoy hanging out with your fire team on Discord? Then circle around because we got a brand new Discord quest just for you. Starting on October 8th, if you play Destiny 2 for just 15 minutes while on Discord, you'll earn a code for the Celestial Ties shader to spruce up your fashion. Once you get your hands on the code, head on over to bungie.net/redeem, log into your account, and redeem your code. And then head over to the Special Deliveries Terminal at the Cryptarch and Gunsmith to get your emblem. This quest will conclude on October 22nd. There is a whole article that is going to go up on October the 8th, and updates on Twitter.
Ugh.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
So I think that about does it. I would be remiss if I did not hit this last thing here, which is about Hurricane Helene, which is one of the most devastating hurricanes to ever hit the continental United States. It was devastating along the coast, but even more so in the mountainous regions of Tennessee and North Carolina, where they are not used to seeing this. Entire cities and towns have been completely wiped out. Asheville, North Carolina, immediately comes to mind. I have friends who used to live there who were really big in the community, and that it is completely cut off from the outside world with how much devastation has happened, which is just absolutely horrifying. There was a map that was published a couple days ago where you could see the power outages, and it was the direct path the storm had taken when it came on land. Just absolutely brutal and devastating. And like even the areas that weren't hit directly by the hurricane and just had the storm surge coming in, like Tampa Bay, they're now about to get smacked by a tropical storm again when they're still trying to clear out all the sand and stuff like that and damaged homes and whatnot. So but they of course, Bungie, the Bungie Foundation works with Team Rubicon and Direct Relief. um Direct donations right now are critical in meeting the needs of those affected by the storms. Veteran-led volunteers are working across the southeast, clearing debris, freeing up roads, and preparing for a large-scale response across the region. There are several links here that you can click on if you're interested in learning more. Direct Relief is coordinating with local health centers and free clinics of medical needs and has made available $74 million in medicine and supplies to health organization impacted by Hurricane Helene. And you can set up or start a fundraising campaign via Tiltify today on these. So, uh, man, it is absolutely fucking devastating down there. Um, I I'm struggling to think of the last time that I saw a hurricane that was that bad that came through. I know there was one a couple years ago that hit that same region in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was really devastating. I think it was, I want to say it was named Ivan. I'm not good with hurricane names. And of course, all of us remember Hurricane Katrina. That's probably the one that sticks out most in a lot of our minds.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically this region's Katrina, with how bad it was. So and that was actually that was the first time I ever knew about the Bungie Foundation was Fight the Flood. I remember that campaign really
Mm.
really, really
Yeah.
impactfully. I would not be shocked to see a fundraiser pop up in the next week or two from the Bungie Foundation.
Yeah.
They have done this for large scale responses before. The wildfires in Australia being one, and then the ones just last year in Hawaii.
Yeah.
that we covered. So I would not be shocked to see something come up here. Um, and we'll keep you guys posted, of course, because this is a very very caring community for a game. Um, One that I don't really see that in a lot of gaming communities, but the Bungie community has always been like that. So keep an eye posted for that. And with that, it's kind of a downer node to end on, but that is going to do it for us. That
That's
is
it.
everything. That is absolutely everything.
We did it.
We did it. I do have a lore corner that I'm putting together for next week that we will do. It is on the origins of the name of the exotic weapon. I saw a really cool Twitter thread talking about how it's rooted in Greek mythology that I want to do, but I want to read through it and do a little bit of my own research before I go to it. Make sure I attribute the person correctly. We do have a few questions tonight to get to very quickly. Um, Before we get out of here. I almost completely skipped over questions. But we do have a few questions. Green Crayons writes in and says, I've been seeing some discourse around them using Onslaught again for the seasonal activity. My question is, do you like this or would you want a completely new activity? Personally, I think it's better to add and innovate on existing activities than to take the innovation to a new one. Um, I would personally prefer a new activity. I don't have a problem with adding to an activity, but the fact that we just, and I said this earlier, the fact we just got Onslaught 6 months ago, it feels kind of bad that we're already iterating on that to
Yeah,
me personally.
but I wonder like if we were even supposed to have it 6 months ago and they needed something, right? So they bumped it. I don't
I
know.
mean, we have speculated on that for a long time.
Yeah. So I
We
mean,
felt
like,
like that was supposed to be part of, because I mean, Into the Light was never supposed to happen.
yeah.
So it does feel like if the original timeline had held,
Hmm.
Onslaught probably would have been coming out with the 10th anniversary, or this would have been our first opportunity getting Onslaught,
Right.
for instance. So like I get it from that perspective. I do like the idea. I do agree with you though. I like the idea of using existing activities. We should be doing that.
Hmm.
I do think that helps with resources in particular because we're reusing things like Crucible maps and patrol zones to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it allows for more like, oh, it feels like you're part of like a living world in that regard.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the rewards. I like that you're gonna be freeing captives instead of just like running down a hallway this time.
Yeah.
That seems really cool.
Plus,
Excited to
like,
see it.
it's really easy to jump into if you don't have a lot of time and or if you just want to like have mindless fun. I mean, like,
Yeah,
I mean,
and I
sometimes I like to jump on and do stuff like this after, I mean, I've probably worked like almost 60 hours this week already because of things going on at work and like
yeah.
I don't feel like playing a game that takes a lot of mind power. And Onslaught is one of those modes where it just doesn't take a lot of mind power. So
Yeah, I like this. I'm just, it's whatever.
yeah,
Um, I just I don't know. I like to complain, guys. Um, Tiger Jesus writes in and asks, "Do you all think we will turn one of the echoes into an exotic?" Yes, but it will not be until Heresy. I cannot fathom us doing it now.
yeah,
It'll be sometime in Heresy, I think.
hmm,
I wouldn't be shocked if we made another heavy trace out of it, for example.
yeah,
Um, that would not be shocking to me, but I do think we will do it eventually. If we're turning like literal gods into weapons, then yeah, we can turn an echo into a weapon. There's nothing Banshee can't do. Jiggly Panda
except
writes in.
remember,
Jiggly Panda writes in and says, "What are your thoughts on them bringing a new synergy with Icebreaker to go with the name?" I do like that it is going to be Stasis. It is reworked, and I apologize that we did not get into that on this episode. Again, I said I kind of was like stepping in and out while that was going on. I would rather talk about Icebreaker once the dungeon is out and I can more fully like take a look at the weapon. Hopefully, I can earn it and try it out for myself. Um, but the goal is to talk about Icebreaker during the dungeon pod. That is the current plan right now, is to talk about it then. And am I the only one who is a little disappointed that No Land Beyond isn't the sniper coming back? Man, I think the time for No Land Beyond has passed.
yeah, get
I
that
think
out of
No
here.
Land Beyond
Nobody
is
wants it.
I think it's fun as a meme, but I think in terms of practicality, like Icebreaker is one of those weapons that made me go, "Holy shit! I never thought we were going to get this back."
Hmm.
But it is totally reworked, and it is now stasis. And I really, really like the idea of that. I'm a big fan of it. I like the synergy it brings with stasis abilities. Um, I look forward to using this a lot, and I don't like a lot of sniper rifles, but I'm very interested to see brand new Icebreaker.
Hmm.
I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, but again, we'll talk more Icebreaker during dungeon review. And our final question of the week comes to us from Cade6. Are we back?
We're back.
Corey has a very enthusiastic answer, more so than mine is. Mine
Josh and I
is
are back.
mine's a very cautious yes. We've been down this road so many times, though, and I
I
think
know.
that's my hesitancy. I think that's why I've been kind of a Debbie Downer compared to a lot of other folks in our community. And I'm not like I didn't try to rain on anybody's parade. I kept a lot of my opinions to myself this week. I was kind of a downer in other chats I was in, and I'm just like, man, these are great promises. These are great strides they're taking. I really hope Revenant is more. Revenant has to be more engaging than Echoes was for me because we don't have an
Yeah.
expansion to prop it up this time.
Yeah.
Um, and when you consider that Act One and Act Two are each going to have a big like holiday event during them, most likely. Um, if these are going to be 6 weeks acts again, you're going to get Festival of the Lost this time, and you're going to get the Dawning during Act Two. That I think helps buff it a little bit too. And if you're, that's part of the reason I think why we're getting the story for the entire act dropping on launch days during this episode. I'm interested and intrigued to see what happens. I don't know if I love
Yeah.
it yet. I'll have thoughts on that one next week. I'm going to try my best to get through the story before next Thursday. That's the goal, is for me to get through all of Act One's story by Thursday, and that's a tall order. I have a really busy week next week. Not
Yeah.
just like, oh, in terms of like there's a whole lot of shit coming out that I want to play, like Diablo and Metaphor. It is actually a really busy week for me personally. So this could not have come at a worse time for me. Dropping this act, it would have been so much better if it was the week after or if it had been this week instead.
Hmm.
I digress. Um, so Corey has an enthusiastic "we're back." I have a much more muted response of I am very much in wait and see mode because I also liked the activities in Act One of Echoes, and I really liked the weapons, and we all kind of know how I felt about everything else that came post that. I think you had one good activity in like four that you got. I don't think the battlegrounds were particularly great outside of the last one. The exotic mission was fine, but I ran that thing like damn near a dozen times, so I'm sick of it. And I didn't think it was particularly great the first time around.
Hmm.
Fox and I ranked the exotic missions, and I was very ho drum on it. And man, I'll tell you right now, Enigma Protocol sucks. The only one that I really liked was Breach Executable, and that's because of the sheer amount of loot you got from that,
Yeah.
which I really, really loved. I thought that was a very rewarding activity. It was very quick to run. You could matchmake into expert without having to risk failing. It was very nice. I liked it. And the better you did, the more loot you got, which kind of reflects how Coil was also, but with like half of the time needed to do it, which is nice. So you were saying you could just pop in and do an onslaught. I love being able to pop in and do that.
Hmm.
Um, so big fan. It remains to be seen. Like I want to see what else is planned for Revenant before I get too excited. But hey, if Prison of Elders is the thing coming back in Act Two, I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited if Prison of Elders is being brought into D2 because that can become a permanent arena mode. That
Yeah.
is something you can iterate on regularly. Like we were just talking about, like how Onslaught is this evolving game mode. Like you can do that with Prison of Elders going forward too. Like once a year, you could do Prison of Elders refresh. I
Hmm.
could even see that like kind of taking the place of Gambit for all. You could remove Gambit and let it, you know, get fixed or come back occasionally as like new Trials of the Nine or something, which has
Hmm.
been my pitch for a while. If you have something Prison of Elders and Onslaught going on, I think that makes it a little bit easier to do that because Onslaught is another 3-person activity. Prison of Elders is probably going to be a 3-person activity. Um, I like that. I really like the idea of that. So, big fan. Um, and in regards to Frontiers, I like everything I'm hearing about Apollo so far for the most part.
Yeah.
I really like a lot of what I'm hearing, but gonna need some story specifics before I get too excited. I'm gonna need to see a trailer, which I mean, my money is on. We get a trailer revealed at the Game Awards. That is roughly 6 months out, which is traditionally when they show us a trailer. Maybe they hold it until the first day of Heresy, but I really don't think they're going to hold it for that long. If it really is a brand new location with new factions and new NPCs and things like that, um, then I think it's safe to tease that while you're still like working through Revenant and Heresy. Like I think you can do that without spoiling the outcome of those episodes. Just be kind of selective with who you show in there, right? Um, so I'm interested to see that. But for right now, they're hitting a lot of the right notes. Even if I have reservations about like, and I'm like kind of ho-drum about, oh, they're only giving us one dungeon and one raid a year. Like no reprise raids are going to happen anymore. Apparently, like things like that too have me kind of bummed because I think really good content has been taken out of this game for like seemingly no reason now.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really, really would like Leviathan and Scourge the Past back. Even Crown, I even want Crown of Sorrow back. Like I want those raids back.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't bring the campaigns back, I think the raids.
I mean, I'm a fan. I personally think like all of it needs to come. There's no longer a story reason for it to be gone. Is my
Yeah,
whole argument. I think.
yeah. No, I
Um,
mean, I agree. I don't. I think
yeah,
it all should be back. But I mean, if you're gonna not bring back something and then bring back something, it should be the. I think the raids should be.
I think like the Leviathan is probably like all those raids are actually pretty easy to bring back. I think because they're all in their own spaces.
Yeah.
Like 4 of them take place on the Leviathan for God's sake. And one of them is in the city. Like those are all unique areas and like offer us a different perspective, I think. Like I would really love to see that stuff come back. It's going to be really hard to make the argument for Wrath of the Machine now, unfortunately. As much as I would like to see that back, I know that it's probably just not going to happen, which is a shame. It's the one activity that it's the one raid that everyone wants that just is not going to come over
Hmm.
because you have to remake. That's an entire race you have to make, or you have to change the enemies around to be like Scorn or something this time, which takes away part of the charm of it, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Even if they would fit with it, it's still, yeah, not a fan. So, yes, tentatively, we're back. Corey is back. I'm cautiously optimistic right now.
Well,
I'm not. I refuse to let myself get too hyped because we've been down this path so many times before, right?
yeah. No, I
I
just.
can't do this again.
Yeah, I'm. Here's the thing. I don't know if we're like back, right? Like
Right.
we are clearly in some sort of transition mode, right? That's what this feels like. I was talking to some other people about this the other day, and yes, the episodes are interesting idea, and Apollo and Behemoth are, feel kind of experimental a little bit, but it just feels like we're in a transition mode until the next major thing, or Bungie kind of figures out what they want to do, you know moving forward after this, right? And
Yeah.
um I'm gonna take it for what it is, and the content is fun when it's here. And if I need to go play other games, like I've been playing, like the last week and a half, I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima. So um I'm playing other games, and that's what Bungie wanted us to do in the first place, right? And so when this content drops, I'll play it, and um if the in-game stuff is interesting enough, I'll play it. If it's not that super interesting, I'll drop off after a couple weeks and go play something else. You
Yeah.
know?
I I'm interested to see what happens here. I do still really love this game and I want it to be good, but like
Hmm.
this season is one that like, hey, if I've honestly them dropping Onslaught as the first activity is great in a lot of ways because I'm not super interested in Onslaught. Like I want to play, but like there is so much in the month of October alone that I need to get to. Like I said before, Diablo drops an expansion on the same day as this season. And I love Diablo. I'm a big Diablo lore nerd. Very excited for Vessel of Hatred. Next Thursday, the night before the dungeon, is when Metaphor drops.
Hmm.
Black Ops 6 is this month. I like playing Call of Duty with my friends. That's my turn your brain off and play it game. So excited for that to come back. Life is Strange is at the end of this month. Dragon Age Veilguard. Like, we might be back with BioWare. Stalker 2 is next month, like right around Thanksgiving, and then we got ye old Indiana Jones coming in December.
Yeah, we're
So,
back.
like, and that, knowing my luck, is going to drop like the same week that they drop a new act for Destiny. So I just like there's a lot that I want to get to and that I want to play. I am low key excited. Like, I really love Mithrax. I really love Crow. I'm interested to see Crow in his first official role as the Hunter Vanguard here. Let's see how bad he fucks this one up.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. Of course, full seasonal Act One impressions coming next week. You're still going to get your dungeon pod as soon as I get a clear. I will rope somebody into talking to dungeon with me. That's not going to adhere to the every other week structure we're going to take starting next week. But again, like, if they drop something massive like this, I don't know that I can store up 2 weeks of this.
Hmm.
Like, that would be genuinely difficult. Like, a couple of Frontiers blocks, okay, fine. But like, if we get 2 massive swaps back to back, like, that's the only way where the model kind of like fucks us and fucks y'all, because by then you're like, oh well, we already know all this. Like, great, I can give you the Cliff Notes version essentially. Like, here, let me hit some of the big points, and we can move on to new shit. I think this will allow us to cover episodes a little bit better too,
Mhm.
rather than, oh well, it's week 3 and we have nothing to really talk about for like the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, Corey, you wanna get us out of here, man?
Yeah.
My jaw hurts.
I know. I mean, you've been talking the whole time. I've just
My
been
jaw,
kind of,
yeah. I'm still got some aggravation from dental procedure, and I'm ready to go take some pain pills.
yeah, I'm ready to go not sleep because my children don't let me sleep, but it's okay. Uh Thank you so much for watching and or listening to this episode of Tower Casuals, the
Our
Destiny
longest
Pod.
episode in a hot minute, 2.5
I
hours.
know. You guys are eating good tonight. So Josh, thank you for your time as always. Where can we find you?
Twitter, Josh_Finn, 2 N's.
2 N's, he says.
2 N's, always 2 N's.
You can find me at I am Corey in HD. You can follow Tower Casuals on them socials. Join the Discord. Check out our other stuff. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.